Titans, go!
Ciao, my people, and welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. It has been over a year since we've done this, but thanks to the joint efforts of Charles and Ratcatcher 2 on loan from the Suicide Squad, Titans Tower is now clean and pristine and open for business. And speaking of which, other than myself, your Italian DJ Nick, I'm here with my partner in crime, fellow Titan Talker, brother from another mother, and yes, the man who definitely helped keep Titans Tower nice and spiffy, Mr. Charles Skaggs. Hey, Charles, I know you are going through a pretty rough patch, to say the least, but so glad to be back here with you. So how you doing?
Well, thank you very much, Nick. I really appreciate it. And hi, everybody. Sorry if you missed us, but, like all of you, we were waiting for new Titans and Doom Patrol, and we're getting Titans, so we could finally talk some Titans at long last. And it won't be too long before we talk some Doom Patrol as well, once again. But we'll talk a little bit that a little bit later. As for me, not having a great week. Unfortunately, my wife Lori and I had to put my cat Keiko to sleep. And for those who know me personally and have expressed their condolences, including you, Nick, I want to thank you very much for doing so. It was great to see that outpouring of support. And I just want to thank everybody who expressed their condolences. So if I seem a little subdued, this is why. But I'm very excited to talk Titans with you, Nick. It's been, like I said, a year since we've done that. We've been busy. We've been on the Fandom Zone podcast talking, all kinds of comic book TV shows, especially all those new Marvel Cinematic Universe TV shows recently. But, obviously Titans is a personal favorite of mine. And obviously with Jesse when we started it and then bringing you in. So I couldn't wait to get back to it. And I'm glad you're driving this week, but just to warn everybody, I will probably take the reins in our next episode. I'm just kind of taking a little easier this week for obvious reasons, and I want to thank you, Nick, for leading us all to wonderful success. Of course.
Well, you are too kind. I just think it's crazy when I think about it, because here is pretty much where you and I met, Charles. And since, I wrote into you and Jesse at the time, and here I am, kind of driving the bus, which is just like mind blowing.
It's all come full circle, hasn't it?
It's absolutely crazy, but I'm so happy to be here with you. And of course, we are at episode 60 here, and we'll be doing an overview of the first 3 episodes of season 3 of Titans, which answer the names of Barbara Gordon, Red Hood, and Hank and Dove. The first 2, as usual, very original names, right. I must say.
Yeah.
As usual.
Yeah, but at least, they're so short, we could just combine them really easily into one little tagline, right?
Yes, exactly. But yeah, and to go into a little bit of detail here, the first 2 episodes, Barbara Gordon and Red Hood, were directed by Carol Banker, who had directed the season 1 episode Jason Todd, and the first and last episodes of season 2 Trigon and Nightwing, while Barbara Gordon was written by Richard Hatem, who had written episodes of Jason Todd, Donna Troy, and Dick Grayson from season 1, and also Rose Connor and Nightwing from season 2. And of course, it's co-written with Jeff Johns, who had written the pilot of Titans, along with the episodes Origins, Doom Patrol, Hank and Dawn, and Trigon as well. And when it comes to our 3rd episode, Hank and Dove, that was directed by Millicent Shelton, who so far has only directed 1 episode, which was ELO. And it was written by Jamie Gorenberg, who had written the episodes from season 2, Aqualad and Fallen. And all 3 episodes, of course, dropped on August the 12th of 2021.
Yeah. So, and if you notice Aqualad, written by Jamie Gorenberg, where she killed Aqualad, and then here we have Hank and Dove, where she kills off Hawk. Coincidence? I think not.
Nope. I think she enjoys killing off characters.
At least killing off Titans, apparently. Yeah.
I get that's the impression I got. And speaking actually of you, Charles, before we actually get to our cast, our trivia, and our topics, which you brilliantly put together, mind you, the big question is: did this Titans hat trick make you want to throw your toque on the ice in celebration or in frustration?
Well, actually, I think it was I see why they did it, because especially with the third episode, which we will discuss heavily, that it was a big moment. Like it almost seemed like Titans was trying to do their own Game of Thrones type thing, where a character is killed off unexpectedly. Mm-hmm. And in this case, they killed off Alan Ritchson's Hawk. His character of Hank Hall was killed off because the actor Alan Ritchson is going to be playing Jack Reacher in the new, I think it's Amazon Prime series Reacher, based on the books. So
he's going to be kind of busy.
So I think this is their way of writing him out, and as a result, it kind of makes sense to talk about all three episodes, as we were discussing right before we started recording. And it's almost like there was a lot of setup in this one. We get the Titans moving to, at least temporarily, hopefully, to Gotham City, and introduction of a lot of bad supporting characters, people that I'm sure a lot of comics fans like myself and you know full well, which we'll discuss. But there was a lot going on, and I think that after such a long hiatus, and after the first couple of, shall we say, I don't want to say disappointing, but uneven. How's that? Uneven seasons. I think Titans needed to come out very strong in season 3, right out of the gate. And I think doing these 3 episodes back to back to back on August 12th was exactly the way to do it. What do you think?
I very much agree, and I think the uneven term that you used is perfect to describe it, because it seems to have been a trait of the previous 2 seasons as well, where we kind of started off strongish, if you will, and then it kind of petered out, and I just hope they won't follow that trend, because they really started off super well, and to the point where there were some things which obviously you and I as comic book readers knew would happen. But they gave it their own twist to a certain extent, which was kind of neat. And yes, and some of the surprises, I literally had to pick my jaw off the floor by the time episode 3 was over. I was like, wow, they really went there? I mean, because, and here's the thing, I just kind of sort of sat back, and we will get into more detail about this, but I was kind of just sat back and said, yeah, of course, they'll save him in time.
Superboy will get there in the nick of time.
It's like, obviously, it's like, this is a superhero show. What could possibly go wrong? Oops. I guess I messed up on that one. But yeah, so it definitely it very much surprised me, and I love when the show can surprise me in a good way. I just hope we won't get any unpleasant surprises like we have had in the previous 2 seasons. And I know that your wife Laurie is still reeling from what we were given in season 2. So
yeah, I think Laurie is just simply biding her time, going, okay, we got to resurrect Donna Troy already. Let's get on with it. Where's Raven? Where's Donna? Come on. So
exactly,
who we don't get to see in these first 3 episodes. So we're having to bide our time on those. But so that's where Laurie's head is at. But I think Laurie's reaction to be about Hawk was, I really wish they would stop killing off Titans, she said.
Stop killing
Titans. Exactly. Hashtag stop killing Titans. But
it made me think of John Connor with the Terminator. You can't just kill people. Why?
Right. Well, I'm all about the shocks and the unexpected twists. And obviously with Alan Ritchson leaving the show, it makes sense to kill off his character. I get that. So, but you can't keep relying on death as your main hook. You're like your only go-to trick in your bag of tricks. You got to have different kinds of things in your writer's repertoire. So, if you're going to come up with some, I'm all about like bring on the surprises, bring on the twists, but don't just keep like killing off characters and expecting that storytelling. No, you're just going for cheap shock value. You got to be able to do better. And as we found out in season 2, I think what you were alluding to was that we started off really strong, but by the end of the season, it just completely went right down the toilet into in a narrative mess. Mm-hmm. And it was a bit of a letdown. So we're a little gun shy here at season 3 because here we have 3 new episodes and they were pretty strong right out of the gate. So we can, we're starting to feel a little bit more optimistic, but I don't want that, like that, to use a classic, comic strip comparison. I don't want Lucy pulling away the football again.
Certainly not. Hopefully third time is the charm.
Yeah. We don't need Charlie Brown kicking, air and flying way up into the air as she pulls that football back. We've been there before. We've been burned before. So, Titans writers, if you can't get your acts together by season 3, we're in trouble. I'm just saying.
We very much are. So I guess, we'll see if third time is the charm. And, Charles, you mentioned some of the absences when it comes to our cast. So let's actually take a close look at our cast. We have, of course, our carryover from last season. So we have, of course, Brenton Thwaites as Dick Grayson Nightwing. We have Anna Diop as Corianders. Ryan Potter as Gar Logan. Curran Walters as Jason Todd Robin Red Hood. And we, of course, have Minka Kelly as Dawn Granger Dove. The aforementioned Alan Richardson reprises his role as Hank Hall Hawk, Joshua Orpin as Connor Superboy, and McKinley Freeman returning as Dr. Justin Cole.
Hands up if you saw that coming.
That was a surprise.
Right. We'll talk about that.
It was.
We'll talk about that.
We certainly will. Aside, of course, from these familiar faces, we also have 3 big additions to this season. As first off, we have Savannah Welch as Barbara Gordon, who, for you country music lovers, is actually daughter of country music artist Kevin Welch. So no surprise, I was like, wait, I've heard that name before. And no surprise, she is a singer-songwriter. And add to that, she's also a colleague of ours, Charles. She is a fellow podcaster.
Oh.
And
I hope she's listening.
I hope so too. And apparently, when she invites folks over, she's like, you can discuss anything you want except music. So I think that's kind of... She probably doesn't want to talk music.
Right. I did note that she's I guess a member of the alt country band the Trishas.
That she is.
So I'm guessing is a play on Trisha Yearwood, presumably, right?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
I thought so. I figure obviously hosting a country and western music show that you would probably be a little bit more knowledgeable about that than I was, but I had a feeling about that.
Indeed, yes, and as I said, it was great to find out that she was, she is Kevin Welch's daughter, and acting-wise, folks might know her from The Tree of Life, the fan film Casey Jones, where she actually plays April O'Neil. If you guys want to check that out, there's a little fan
from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, yeah.
Correct, and of course the TV show Six.
And Boyhood. Yeah, she was in the movie Boyhood, too.
I had to mention Boyhood. Good point, Charles.
Because that's a pretty notable film, yeah.
Oh, very much so. It's a great, great movie. Added to this, though, it should be said that sadly Savannah is an amputee in real life, as she lost her leg in a vehicle accident. But that, hey, has not stopped her from doing so many awesome things and pursuing all her various passions. So I thought it was, if you will, kind of neat, I maybe want to say they actually chose somebody who knows what it means to be bound to a wheelchair or not being 100% mobile, if you will. So that was kind of cool that they made that choice.
Yeah, it was. So, I thought it was pretty impressive that they cast an amputee as Barbara Gordon. And it seems like what they've done is instead of giving her a prosthetic as Barbara Gordon, they've just changed Barbara Gordon to match her leg amputee. So presumably instead of being paralyzed, she may be paralyzed. We don't know. But at the very least, Barbara has also lost her leg, presumably at the result of the Joker.
Yeah, because I believe she actually mentioned...
To accommodate Savannah Welch's casting, yeah.
And it was a nice little, shall we say, tribute to the Killing Joke, of course, when she mentions that, which I thought was nice. So, yeah, it was great stuff. And, of course, along with Barbara Gordon, we get this universe's version of Jonathan Crane, a.k.a. the Scarecrow, played in this case by Vincent Kartheiser, whom our listeners will probably know from Angel and Mad Men. And I
he was great. He had that very punchable face on Mad Men. He was such the douche on Mad Men.
Yeah, and it's interesting how he's kind of, in inverted commas, aged. I mean, he's still youngish, but he was such a pretty boy at the time. And now he has
a very boyish face, which I think is why Jonathan Crane has a big bushy beard in this series.
Yeah, and that's why I grow my beard out, folks, because if I go out without a beard, I look like a baby, and that's why I have a beard. So me and Mr. Kartheiser can definitely relate. And of course, we get a brief appearance, though a significant one nonetheless, of a certain Tim Drake, who of course is the third Robin in the comics, played by Jay Lycurgo. And folks will know him from War of the Worlds, and he will be appearing in The Batman.
That's right. Although not as Tim Drake. We should point that out. He's not going to. I think he's just going to be playing some criminal in that movie. Yeah. You know, like a hood or something. But
yeah, he might wear those petty thugs or something.
But will he wear a red hood as a hood?
But hey, and it's so cool that he actually gets to be in the Batman, seeing who he plays in this. Yeah. But great stuff for sure. So, Charles, did you have, speaking of Tim Drake, did you have any trivia or anything you wanted to share with the class when it comes to this character?
Well, of course. Speaking of Tim Drake, so after Jason Todd was killed off, in the 1989 storyline, Batman Year 3, by Marv Wolfman and Pat Broderick, that ran in Batman Volume 1, number 436 to 439. This is where Tim Drake was introduced as Jason's replacement. And Tim, as it turns out, was in the audience the night that Dick Grayson's parents were killed by Tony Zuko at the Haley Circus. And he later managed to discover the identities of Batman and the original Robin, Dick Grayson, through their various exploits over time. And essentially showing off his ability to be a detective. And after Jason's death and watching Batman spiral into darkness, or okay, it's Batman, so more darkness. Darkness, I guess. Tim attempted to convince Dick Grayson to resume the role of Robin because he was convinced that Batman needs a Robin. Of course, Dick didn't resume the role, just like he does. He refuses that here in this first episode, I believe, or second episode, first episode, and instead, Tim, of course, eventually becomes the third Robin after about a year in issue number 457. So in 1990. So that's the deal. And obviously, with Tim's introduction and Jason becoming the Red Hood, it seems more than likely that Bruce Wayne will get his wish and get another Robin under his belt. Or will this Robin be a protege of Nightwing instead?
That could be interesting. And it was fun that it was alluded to the fact that about Dick Grayson and becoming Batman, because in the comics he actually does become Batman for a very brief period in the comics, if memory serves.
Dick Grayson, yeah, he does. Yeah, he in the storyline Prodigal, that's when he takes over temporarily for Bruce after Bruce was injured, I believe.
Yes, and there was that whole thing of who's going to be the next Batman, and Dick briefly filled in, so I thought it was a nice little homage there too. And there was something I also wanted to ask you, Charles. Yeah. For some reason, it seems like folks have lost their stuff over the fact that Tim Drake is being played by a non-white actor.
That segment of fandom. Yeah. Go ahead.
But I want to know your... I had to groan because I actually watched a YouTuber whose name I cannot recall. It just happened to be on my... it randomly pop up, when you're opening YouTube and they suggest these videos to you. I just wanted to be known that I'm never going to watch this guy again because I just hated how he reacted.
Yeah.
And because he's like, oh, Tim Drake is white. How dare you, etc., etc. And I was like, okay, I'm never watching you again. You've completely turned me off your channel. But I don't even remember his name.
Well, what
did you make of that?
There's no justification for really being upset about this because there's nothing that says Tim Drake couldn't be played later on by a white person, for one thing. And you had Dick Grayson, who is white guy, Jason Todd, white guy. So what's the harm in changing it up a little bit? I don't really see the problem with it, but I mean, yes, I get the point that people are like, well, it's not faithful to the comics. Well, neither is hardly half of this TV show. So why should anyone be surprised or upset? Because so many different things are being changed here. I mean, you've got Starfire, who doesn't have orange skin, doesn't have green eyes, and we saw her flying just a very little bit, but she doesn't have a traditional costume like George Perez designed in the comics. So there's differences all around here. This isn't exactly. It's not really. Titans does not really follow the comics. It's not very overly faithful to the comics, the source material. It isn't a little bit. I'd say about 50% faithful. But that other 50%, it's open to interpretation. They're taking some risks. And, hey, we've seen a white Tim Drake, so let's see what a non-white Tim Drake can do. What that brings to the table. And what that, because if nothing else, they give him a completely different background, I think, than what they had in the comics. So if you're going to be upset about anything, why aren't you upset about, why are Jack and Janet Drake completely different as well?
Yes. But I think if one is pointing out those kind of differences, they're probably not even paying attention to the show. If that is what bothers you the most,
right.
Then it's like, are you even caring about the rest? If that's your biggest gripe, I don't know, how far you're going to go with your being a so-called YouTuber or critic, if you will.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just people trying to act like buffoons so they can get people watching their videos.
Yeah,
and spewing out some hate because I'm sure there's a nice little racist component to this on YouTube.
I'm sure.
So playing to that certain racist segment of fans that who are all upset for whatever reason that because Tim Drake is not white in this version.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you should rather focus on does he give you a good performance? Do you like the character, etc., not what his ethnicity might be.
Yeah. He's still white in the comics if you want to read about him. And and by the way, he's now bisexual, or at least bi-curious, if you've been following the comics at all. So,
you can put that in your pipe and smoke.
Presumably, they're pissed off about that now as well, I'm guessing.
I would not be surprised. But and going further on to our trivia here, I don't know if you want to save this for later, Charles. If not, feel free to, of course, share it now. When it comes to, shall we say, the opposite number of Tim Drake in the comics, at least really the evil side, I believe you had some things to share on a certain Jason Todd.
Yes. So, Tim obviously takes over for Jason, or at least is, like I said, his de facto replacement as Robin, as the third Robin. But in the comics, the little differences from the TV show. Like I said, I know a lot of fans out there are probably already familiar with this, but for those who don't read comics, I'm going to go ahead and run down this really quickly because we have a lot to talk about. So in the comics, Jason was killed by the Joker in a storyline called A Death in the Family, which I have the collection of right behind me. And this was a storyline by Jim Starlin, the guy who created Thanos, I might add, and legendary Batman artist Jim Aparo, that ran in 1988's Batman Volume 1, number 426 to 429. So this is before Batman Year 3. And Jason was killed in number 427, but his fate was not revealed until the following issue, number 428, after DC much to a lot of people's chagrin, ran an extremely tasteless 1-900 number campaign. And if you're not familiar with what 1-900 numbers are, well, back in the 90s, kids, people tried to exploit people for money by having them call what was called 1-900 numbers, that would the area code 900, and they would charge you like 50 cents for the first minute or something, and then 25 cents after that or whatever. So essentially, DC was kind of profiting off of this vote. So you call in, and it was basically just do you want Jason to die? Press 1. Do you want Jason to live? Press 2. And it turns out that the poll was essentially almost like pretty dead even. It was only like a 72 vote margin between wanting Jason to die or Jason to live. And with 5,343 votes going toward Jason dying to 5,271 for Jason to live. And because of that, DC decided, okay, we're going to kill off Jason Todd. They even had actually original alternate artwork had the vote gone the other way.
Wow. Because
that actual artwork where Jason lives turns up in Batman Annual 25, which I'll talk about here in a minute. So I know it's a little complex, but it's comics. Bear with me. So essentially, yeah, DC killed off Jason Todd as like a stunt, and because they just editorial knew that Batman fans were not really happy with Jason Todd as a character.
Right.
He essentially started off being created as almost like a Dick Grayson clone. He was also a circus acrobat and, the son of circus acrobat parents. And then after Crisis, his origin was rewritten as to make him like a street kid who encountered Batman by stealing the tires off the Batmobile. And so essentially he had a little bit more edge to him. And because of that version, a lot of people didn't really like. He was pretty obnoxious. Kind of like, I think people saw him kind of like they see Damian Wayne as the current Robin right now. Is that fair?
Oh, it is a very fair comparison. I just hope that they don't decide to want to kill Damian Wayne off as much as he gets on my nerves too, I will say. But I mean, I think I think it also depends on the writer.
I think it also depends on the writer because I think Grant Morrison handled him really well.
He did. Later on, I think when Grant kind of left, he became more and more bratty as things progressed.
Yeah, as other people got their hands on him. So it's a very precarious character, because you want somebody that pushes the envelope a little bit, but he can't be obnoxious. So you have to be very careful where you tread there.
True.
So after the Batman Year 3 storyline that I talked about, in the 2004-2005 storyline Under the Hood by Judd Winnick and Doug Mahnke that ran in Batman Volume 1, number 635 to 641, and then continued in 645 through 650 and annual number 25. Remember, I said I was going to mention that. Jason returned as the anti-hero Red Hood using an alias previously used by the Joker before his immersion in chemicals. And this is where it gets really complicated, kids. When Superboy Prime, an alternate Earth version of Superboy, essentially fractured reality by punching at a wall.
He broke time.
He broke time into what became known as hyper time. But the gist of this was it reset Jason's timeline so that instead of dying, he lived. But when he returned to life, he returned inside his own coffin. And so he had to dig his way out of his own coffin. And he still had some brain damage, obviously, for having his head crushed in by the Joker.
Sure.
So he ends up institutionalized, but he later escaped and then began living on the streets, just kind of like how he started. And Ra's al Ghul and his daughter Talia al Ghul kidnapped Jason and then took care of him for about a year until Talia pushed Jason into, you guessed it, Roz's Lazarus Pit. And the Lazarus Pit essentially rejuvenated him, made him stronger, but also more violent. On the upside, it healed his brain damage and restored his memories. So he returned to Gotham City only to find that Batman had never killed the Joker, to get justice for Jason's death. And he ended up assuming one of the Joker's previous aliases, the Red Hood, for himself. So that's the comics version. But Titans,
which is
something a little different, like I said. So why aren't you mad about that, fanboys? You should be mad about that.
Well played, and thank you for that wonderful explanation, Charles.
Sorry it took a little long, but it's...
No, I think it was very thorough, and I'm sure the listeners will appreciate it indeed. I mean, it was very, very well done.
I try to keep it as succinct as possible.
I think, but you did a fabulous job there. So, did you have anything else you wanted to mention before we got to our topics?
No. I did want to mention, though, we did get Dove Tiefenbach as Gizmo in this very briefly. So another Fearsome Five member appears. We've had Dr. Light, Shimmer, and now Gizmo. So now we're just waiting for Mammoth and Simon to show up and get written out very quickly of the show. But apart from that, that's all I got. So whenever you're ready, let's get started.
Okay, well then that's fabulous. So let's get down to our topics, which were compiled by the wonderful Charles Skaggs. I mean, the guy is a writer, so he knows what he's doing.
So-called writer, right?
A writer. I think that is a title that you have earned, Charles. But yeah, so Charles has compiled some wonderful topics today, starting actually with our first topic, which he has entitled Gotham Central, where, of course, we will be looking at, in particular, Nightwing, Barbara, and Bruce Wayne, of course, played once again by Ian Glenn. So to give folks a little bit of a background here, picking up somewhat from where we left things in Season 2, the Titans minus Raven, who, if you have forgotten, she's in Themyscira, along with Donna Troy, who is trying to be revived. And, of course, Jason Todd, who's gone back to working with Batman. And
we're not supposed to know that yet, by the way. We're not supposed to know that she's on Themyscira.
Okay, oops, oh well. Forget I said anything.
Forget you said anything.
But, exactly. And of course, we see that Jason Todd has seemingly been killed by the Joker, which we see right at the beginning of the episode, but more on him later. The Titans are now a recognized and celebrated team, both by the people and by the press. And even though he's their de facto leader, Nightwing does not stick around for interviews, while the others pretty much bask in their newfound celebrity status. And Dick is then, of course, alerted about the death of Jason Todd at the hands of the Joker, heads over to Gotham City, and in particular to Wayne Manor, to ostensibly be there for Bruce, but things seem much worse than even Dick imagined. So, Charles, starting with this, should we say this first sort of moment of seeing Nightwing, in full regalia for should we say, coming into his own and meeting up with Bruce after this tragedy. What did you make of the meeting between these two?
Well, obviously it's very tragic because Dick finds out that Jason's dead, and some of the Titans are they're initially a little they take it differently. Corey is very upset, but primarily she's upset about Jason because Jason wouldn't listen. Jason, this seems almost like predestined that Jason would end up dead. So, but Dick obviously he goes to Gotham City, tries to reach out to Bruce, but Bruce is kind of off on Planet Bruce, as it turns out. He's very reclusive. We see him tinkering around Wayne Manor, and but before all that, though, he ends up, I think, Dick goes to meet up with Barbara Gordon first, if I recall correctly, right?
He actually goes, I believe, shortly after their first meeting, because he goes to talk to her about Bruce's erratic behavior.
Oh, okay.
And the
All
fact
right.
he's discovered that she's the commissioner of Gotham.
Yeah. So essentially, Wayne Manor is essentially a mess.
Yes.
You know, we find out a little bit later that Alfred has been dead for some time, which finally explains where Alfred's been through all this.
Yes.
And Bruce is essentially trying not to think about Jason. You know, he's trying to go on being Batman. And, you know, we find out that later on that he's even looking for new sidekicks, which we'll talk about. But Dick is obviously concerned about what he finds. So it troubles him. He tries to reach out, but Bruce isn't having any of it. He's almost in denial at this point. A little bit. You know, thinking that, well, okay, I lost a Robin. I guess I can just get another one from the store and life will go on. I can go on being Batman and it's all good. But Dick is not convinced. And so he's very concerned. So this is where he goes, like you said, to see Barbara Gordon.
But I thought it kind of reminded me of the way Rick Sanchez reacts when a Morty is killed. He's like, oh, well, I'll just get another Morty.
Yeah, exactly. Get one of the pocket Mortys. See what it did there?
I love it. Yeah, granted, okay, Rick is even more callous about it. He doesn't even, think twice about if a Morty dies. But it kind of made me think of that a little bit. And also, yeah, I guess it's maybe Bruce's way of trying to process the grief, because obviously we learn later that's almost what he does. Yeah. But I was almost surprised when, Dick asked him, when's the funeral going to be? And Bruce says, oh, we've had it already. Right. I've already buried Jason next to Alfred in the same sort of, say, plot where Alfred is.
Yeah, he's out in the Wayne Cemetery. We already did it. And so Dick is a little upset about this. He's like, you guys had a funeral and you didn't invite me at least to the funeral. And he's like, no, we took care of it. It's all good. So it doesn't seem, Bruce's behavior is very odd, even for Bruce at this point.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder. He just gets more and more erratic. I mean, even for Batman, it just really almost seems like either he's flying off the handle, or he just doesn't want to process the grief, which is probably why he has all this baggage. Obviously, apparently he didn't process the grief of losing Alfred either. Oh. And this may just be a sum of the two things, because apparently he barely sort of, did anything much about when Alfred passed away. So it seems to be a pattern. But yeah, I think this literally drives a wedge between the two. It's like, because Bruce knows how close Dick and Jason was. So you're kind of like, yeah, maybe we're going to wait for Dick to arrive to Gotham City before we do anything about how we're going to deal with Jason. And the fact that he just sort of cleaned the suit and put it away, and it's like, okay, on to the next crime case. And he's actually sort of talking to Dick about.
Yeah, he's kind of like, it's so hard to get the blood off.
Yes. It's like, really?
Right.
I'm just making this.
But apparently, according to even when Dick goes to see Barbara is mentioning, well, yeah, he was like that when my father was killed by Mr. Freeze. So we find out how Jim Gordon died, apparently, as well.
Very much so.
So you can tick those boxes off. Alfred tick, and Jim Gordon tick. All right. But apparently, yeah, this is like Barbara sees it like a pattern with Bruce. Mm-hmm. But Dick is not convinced here. He knows something's up.
Very much so. And actually, speaking of Barbara, moving on here, of course, Dick then goes to Barbara about Bruce's erratic behavior. And add to that, he discovers that Barbara is now the commissioner of the GCPD. Because we also get to learn this too, because when he's like, I want to see Commissioner Gordon, we all expect, the classic push broom kind of chap, Gary Oldman kind of to show up. But no, we see that she is now of the GCPD. And apparently we find there's this trail of a series of murders, because everybody's kind of trying to figure out this. Apparently there's a new serial killer in town, and you'd think, hey, it's Gotham, so what's new? But everybody's like shocked that there's a serial killer around Gotham City.
What? A mass murderer in Gotham? Inconceivable.
It never happens, right? But it seems like this guy has a kind of a rather particular MO, and these murders seem to be a little bit different. So actually, bringing Barbara in here to the
But you
conversation.
notice we don't hear anything else unless it was referring to the Red Hood, right?
Yes, we don't really get to hear much. It just seems these murders are different because I think
it
it's
seemed like a random throwaway thing.
Yeah, it's
to
like
me. We got this serial killer and we're having trouble with him, but we're never going to mention him ever again later in this episode.
So yeah, forget that.
Forget what I just said. We're gonna talk on other things.
Yes, and actually bringing Barbara into this, Charles, when we actually got that mention of Commissioner Gordon, did you expect to see James Gordon, or were you, or did you kind of think it would be Barbara from the get-go?
No, I mean it kind of makes sense because if Barbara is the commissioner, obviously something happened to Gordon logically, and presumably Gordon wouldn't give up being commissioner unless he was killed somehow or died somehow. And as we find out, he was murdered by Mr. Freeze, which is a little, unusual. But so it seems that this version of the Titans version of Barbara, instead of becoming Oracle, after the Joker did, brutalized her, like in Batman the Killing Joke, for example. Instead, this version of Barbara decides to become police commissioner. I don't know how that works because was Barbara a police officer, rose up through the ranks, or was there a vote and she became police commissioner by vote? I don't know how that worked, but
or it's just nepotism because she's Jim's daughter.
Yeah, okay, Jim Gordon's dead, so I guess we'll give the job to his daughter.
Yeah, she's another Gordon. She's bound to do well.
She's another, exactly. I don't know how that worked, but okay. Again, it's Titans, so we've been here before. But regardless, she's commissioner now. Okay, that's the premise. And, she seems to have this, she's trying to keep her distance from Dick. I think the vibe that we get is obviously because we find out, she was Batgirl in this continuity. That happened. So presumably she has a past relationship with Dick where he was Robin, she was Batgirl, they fought crime together. I don't know. I mean, do you get the impression that they were perhaps romantically involved in this continuity?
I had a feeling that they might have been lovers, yes, because of just the familiarity seemed to almost go beyond just work colleagues, if you will, fighting crime.
Right.
And actually, I believe that does happen in the comics too. I mean, we know that Dick Grayson has had many amorous adventures, and I believe that
one or two.
Barbara. Yeah, and I believe that Barbara has been amongst these two. So
yes, she has.
So yeah, I felt it was almost like
Birds of Prey number 8. Everybody, I'm just recommending that.
There you go. I guess it almost seemed like they acted like that divorced couple, if you will, or a boyfriend girlfriend who've broken up after a long relationship.
Yeah, because they don't really seem to be close friends. So I don't know if it was just a bad breakup or because of what happened to Babs that there's this distance is formed between them.
Yeah. Yeah, because she's not particularly happy to see him, and it's kind of like, oh, you're here, and because he obviously asks her about Bruce, and you actually mentioned the fact that she's like, Bruce is pretty much like that all the time, in the sense that he hardly reacted to when my dad died, he hardly reacted when Alfred died, and so it seems like, and I get this impression that she's a very cynical version of this character.
I mean, so. Because of what happened to her, the trauma of what happened to her, she's almost become a darker, more troubled Barbara Gordon.
Yes, and then so, I mean, it seems like obviously, because she's the only one that I guess Dick can talk to when it comes to Bruce, because who knew him better other than Barbara, obviously, because now Alfred's no longer around.
Right.
And I think, and she's almost trying to tell him, get away before, while you're in time. Because she's like, he's going to try and recruit you, or he's going to try and do something. She literally almost warns him, like, the old man's gone crazy. Get out of the house now, while you still can.
The call is coming from inside the house, Grayson. Yes.
Well played.
Thank you.
But yeah, it did kind of give me that impression almost of that kind of family dynamic where, maybe you have the parents that goes completely loopy. and kind of wants to almost keep the children in the house because it's almost like a safety thing. And Barbara's the more, should we say, enlightened, if you will, and she's like, you're not going to get out if you play into what Bruce is doing. She's like, don't feed into what Bruce is trying to sell you. And in fact, later on, we do get that whole thing of Bruce literally asking Dick out of nowhere, do you want to be Robin again? Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, the guy has totally lost it. What is he thinking?
Yeah.
So, and Dick's like, hell no.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So like, Dick ends up trying to arrange this dinner. He goes like to Barbara and goes, we need to bring Bruce out of his shell. Something's not right here. So why don't you come on over for dinner and the three of us will just sit and talk and maybe we can, with your help, we can get him to confront what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And that's a brilliant segue, actually, to, in fact, what I wanted to actually bring up here, Charles, because they kind of have that discussing old war stories moment. Because, of course, and this is one of two big scenes, I would say, when it comes to these three characters. One is, of course, that long, drawn-out argument about how Bruce sees his war against crime as literally a war. And, of course, later on in the episode, we get another one, which I will allude to a little bit later. But when we get those three, kind of talking, reminiscing over Jason,
right, and
then the conversation going horribly wrong, if you will, where Barbara literally loses her stuff and she's like, see, you're doing it again. And, Bruce, you haven't changed. And what did you make of, shall we say, even just the dynamic of this family, if you will? Because at the end of the day, it is the Bat family.
I mean, it is. It's the Batman family. And if you're familiar at all with these characters from the comics, there's a lot of dynamics at play here. Mm-hmm. But here in Titans, in this episode, this version of Barbara, like you said, and rather I think astutely, is that this version is much more cynical. This Barbara has a lot of resentment, especially towards Bruce. And, she makes no bones about that. She harbors some really deep feelings of resentment toward him. And, she blames him for Jason's death, for ruining Dick's life, for putting her in the Joker's way, which of course ended up her getting shot or, losing her leg and all that. So she kind of takes some responsibility for herself. She says, look, I became Batgirl on my own, but the boys didn't have that choice. Jason's dead. And so this is where I think Barbara's resentment really just turns into just raw hurt feelings here. She says, you like having the Joker out there because otherwise why would you have made sure that he was in Arkham instead of, being taken off the board? And this is the really hard part here that I'm sure shocked a number of Batman fans, where she comes right out and says, look, Bruce, you and the Joker are no different as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, that was brutal. Not to mention the fact that she says you're literally waiting for the Joker to escape. That's why you've never, she would say, killed him. And it almost swirls in the whole thing of Batman doesn't kill. And that's why you get these things happening. And that's why I think she literally says, that shocking thing of you and the Joker are not so different, because they both almost see it as a game.
They feed off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, I think it's, what Barbara said was essentially what I think a lot of Batman fans know in the back of their minds. That Batman indulges the Joker way too much.
Yes.
And maybe, perhaps subconsciously, he likes having the Joker around to challenge him.
Which I guess
maybe he doesn't feel like, the Joker defines him as Batman. Because, if the Joker's taken care of, this main threat to Gotham City, that means, well, maybe I don't need to be doing what I do as Batman.
Well, because because we know what a rich rogues gallery Batman has, but obviously since the dawn of time, Joker has been Batman's ultimate nemesis because he's literally completely the opposite of what Bruce and Batman is. So it makes sense that obviously he sees the Joker as his literal doppelganger, if you will, evil doppelganger almost. And there is actually a great version of, should we say, evil Batman, or should we say the Batman who laughs, which is the twisted version of the Joker being Batman. So, which for folks who've read Heavy Metal or something like that. I can't remember.
Dark Knight's Death Metal. Yeah.
Death Metal, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah, and then the follow-up. What was the follow-up called? I can't remember, but it only just came out. But anyway, so Batman obviously has had other heavy hitters. You've had Ra's al Ghul, you've had Bane, you've had others.
But, he probably has the best rogues gallery in the world of comics.
But let's face it, it's all about Batman and the Joker, right?
Yes.
And Barbara sees that. She calls him out, and it's that big record scratch moment where and then you realize where the most awkward thing that could be said was just said. So the evening ends with her storming out. Dick's like, look, I was trying to reach him. Why didn't you help me? And Bruce goes off into Planet Bruce again.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where Barbara tells Dick, look, just go back to San Francisco, go back with your Titans group. You've got nothing here at Gotham City. There's nothing here for you but pain.
Yeah, it's like, stay away from this madman. Don't be brought back in. You made it out, as I mentioned before. And then, pretty much a lot of the things that
she probably now that I'm thinking about it, she probably blames Bruce for the death of her father as well, although she didn't say that.
But yeah, because she pretty much, makes it clear that Bruce has a lot of blood on his hands and he's never really sort of done anything about it.
Yeah.
And, totally. And I think, and a lot of things that Barbara tells Dick actually end up revealing and coming true. Because later on, before you should say night comes, Dick actually finds that Bruce is already looking for substitutes on his computer. And among these is actually a certain Carrie Kelly, who we actually would see in a very famous Batman comic.
There's a number of notable names on that list
of alternate Robins.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So let's run these down, shall we? So Carrie Kelly, for those who don't know, was the one who becomes Robin in Frank Miller's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And then we get another name, Daxon Chill, who was a member of the We Are Robins group.
Yep.
Stephanie Brown, who's known to a lot of Batman fans because, she was the fourth Robin after Tim Drake for a short time, but she's also been spoiler because she's the Clue Master's daughter.
Clue Master's daughter, yeah.
Yeah, and then now recently she's taken up the role as one of the Batgirls again, working for Barbara Gordon, currently in the comics, and then lastly Duke Thomas, who was also a part of the We Are Robin movement, but also ended up becoming a very notable Batman ally, the Signal.
Oh, yes, of course. That's where I'd heard of him before.
Yeah. During Scott Snyder's run and Greg Capullo's run on Batman. That's where that name comes from. So he wasn't officially a Robin, though. But
true. Well, but were you shocked at that moment, the way that, because going back once again to how we know Batman in the comics, were you shocked at how almost callous Batman is here, where it's like he's already looking for a replacement, kind of doing his Rick Sanchez thing here? Were you surprised? Did you think it was so out of character, or do you think did it work for you?
Well, I think it was intentionally out of character. Because I think Bruce's behavior is not normal behavior. And I think, even for Bruce, I think there's something going on with Bruce. I think Bruce is not himself, to be quite honest with you. And as a result, he's not reacting normally or reacting as expected. this whole thing where he's pleading with Dick to take the Robin mantle back again seemed very desperate and like
very un-Bruce
Wayne.
Wayne.
I need exactly, very un-Batman like. I need you to be Batman, or I need you to be Robin so I can be Batman. And, you'll do it for me, right? Right? You'll be Robin again for me again, right? And Dick, of course, is like, no, I'm Nightwing now. I got a much cooler name. I got a much cooler suit. I'm good. And, I'm in charge of my own team. I don't need to be your sidekick anymore, your partner. So I think it's very uncharacteristic. So either two things are going on here. One, the writers have no idea what they're doing with Batman, which I would not put past them. Or two, someone is messing with Batman.
So to quote the Ramones, someone put something in his drink?
Perhaps, yes. And I points to Nick for the Ramones reference, because I'm a sucker for a great Ramones reference. So,
well, I absolutely love that song.
Somebody put something in my drink. Yeah, that song.
Great song for sure. And it seems like Bruce's erratic behavior just gets worse and worse, because as night falls and we find out that Dick is actually spending the night in Wayne Manor.
Right. Got to keep an eye on the old man. I get that. Yeah.
As I said, the guy's gone nuts.
And I don't have to pay for a hotel room, so that's good, right?
But it just gets worse, because Dick seems to fall asleep, and then all of a sudden, Bruce comes kind of storming into the door, looking a little bit shocked, with a crowbar in his hands, saying, you don't have to worry about Joker anymore. I'm out of here. You can be the new Batman. And it's literally implied, and he literally explains that he actually went to Arkham Asylum and killed the Joker.
Right.
Which was a huge shock. I was like, whoa, what? And then we just see, and I believe the episode actually ends with the crowbar clanking to the ground, and that was the end of Barbara Gordon. So
remember back in the episode Trigon, where Dick hallucinated this, nightmare world, this total darkness world that, Bruce, went off, completely lost it and killed the Joker. And
then went on to kill everybody else.
And then went on to kill everybody else. So, essentially, this is Dick's nightmare coming true.
Yes.
Or is there something more going on? Is there some, perhaps, playing on certain fears, perhaps?
So you think maybe a certain Jonathan Crane might be involved in all this in some weird fashion?
I would be very surprised if he wasn't.
That's an excellent theory.
I certainly think Scarecrow, I could be wrong, but one of my theories about this is I think Scarecrow has been gassing Bruce Wayne. I think perhaps on working in concert with a certain Red Hood. And we'll talk more about Scarecrow here, but yeah, I think Bruce has been altered. And maybe he only thinks he killed the Joker.
Ooh, okay.
Now, granted, maybe there was a body, but maybe Bruce wasn't the one who killed him.
So maybe the Joker was killed, but not necessarily by Batman, is what you're saying.
Could have been that maybe Red Hood killed him. And then to essentially drive Batman over the edge with Scarecrow's help, the Scarecrow made him think that he killed the Joker.
Well, it's an interesting point you bring up, because, and I will get to this, here shortly. We do see Jason using a certain inhaler before he gets killed by the Joker. So you do also wonder where that comes from. Granted, we did find that Jason was learning a little bit of chemistry, but still.
But according to Dick, Jason's an idiot. He never read. So what's he doing with a chemistry book? And this is one of the things that makes Dick suspicious about Jason's death.
Very much so. But yeah, I personally, I was kind of shocked at this, and I really didn't want to believe it, if you will, because it's always like.
So should we just dive into our second topic?
I think so too, because
move on.
Because I think
I think that's a great segue.
It is. So let's actually look at the big event that pretty much sets up everything else that makes up these 3 episodes. We'll probably play a big part throughout the season. Our next topic, as Charles has actually named it, is A Death in the Family.
What better title, right?
Well, perfect title for sure, which is, of course, Jason's death, in inverted commas, at the hands of the Joker, which is pretty telling for how it all goes down.
Yeah.
So
death, or was it a death?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Dr. Evil, death, in quotes, in air quotes. Yeah.
Yes.
With freaking laser beams.
I was waiting for the freaking laser beam, so thank you for satisfying my joy with that, Charles.
You're welcome.
So yes, as I mentioned before, episode 1, Barbara Gordon actually opened with Jason in the Batcave, listening to a police broadcast about the Joker. And he's able to track the Joker to this abandoned amusement park by the pier. He contacts Bruce, who's flying on a private jet as usual. Bruce, of course, tells Jason not to go after the Joker. Of course, what does Jason do?
He goes after the Joker. Like, you know, while he's going, like, wait till I get home to Gotham City, then we can go after the Joker, okay?
And he's like, fine.
Yeah, Jason's like, okay, whatever, old man. I'm going to, you know, whatever, I do what I want. And then he hangs up and then presumably goes to the abandoned amusement park after juicing up on something.
That's exactly it. He takes this most mysterious inhaler and off he goes to the park. And at the park, of course, he finds the police officer whose face has been disfigured by the Joker's laughing gas. And out of nowhere, the Clown Prince of Crime surprises Jason and beats him with a crowbar. And interesting, we never see the Joker's face on screen, which I thought was an interesting.
Well, they probably didn't want to cast anybody. So because for one scene, so they kept him to shadows. And
just the purple pants and the spats, I believe it was, that the Joker wears.
Yeah, maybe a wig or something, but they made it very, like silhouette-ish. So, but the outline seemed like, okay, this is the Joker, because this, I think a lot of people would have been upset had you not seen the Joker beating the crap out of Jason Todd with that.
Well, laughing hysterically.
Well, laughing hysterically and with a crowbar. Yes, exactly. Got to have the crowbar. It's important.
Yeah, and so actually speaking of actually that moment, Charles, I mean, what did you make of all that and how Jason seemingly died just like that? I mean, and also I guess the inhaler that we got, because it had not been mentioned before, right?
No, this is the inhaler thing was something completely different. I thought it was interesting because it almost it kind of looks like a little bit like Bane's venom to me a little bit. So I was like, well, what is he doing? Like roiding up on venom, or is he taking some other compound? We don't know. Like I thought, well, maybe he's just juicing up to go after the Joker, and thought that maybe the Bane venom would help him beat up the Joker, but the Joker gets the upper hand. But I thought it was over, just way too quick. There was no drama to it. It wasn't, like, oh my God, this happened. Like, Jason's dead. It was just more like, okay, we ticked that box too. Like, here, okay, you guys, you got your scene really quickly. Here's Joker beating Jason Todd to death. Okay, done. Moving on.
So, yes, it was, I agree with you.
There was no emotion there.
It was very much a throwaway moment. I mean, you could have...
What do you think?
I agree. It's such a throwaway moment. And seeing how this event pretty much is the premise and the prelude for everything that will happen after, you think you would spend a little more time on it.
Yeah, you think it's a major story beat. And, you want to savor that moment, not just breeze right through it like you were just doing the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah. In fact, so I thought it was just... for what it then implies for later on and why then Jason does what he does, etc. It's like...
like this is the first time we've seen this in live action. You think people would want to enjoy it for a little bit. Yeah.
So I was not particularly happy with what was done when it came to that, but I guess, it was...
it was what it was. Yeah, it was what it was.
I think that's the best way to kind of explain it away. But we do have to also mention something here as well, because while all this is happening, away in Gotham City, we have a young Noodle House delivery boy by the name of Tim Drake, who's working a late shift and apparently out past curfew. And I have to actually be honest, Charles, I didn't even know that Gotham had a curfew at this point, but okay.
Well, it makes sense. You would think Gotham would be, considering everything that goes on in that city.
Because the craze, they're like, oh, did COVID come to Gotham? I guess so.
You would think they would have a permanent curfew, honestly, but...
I suppose so. Yeah, I was just kind of a little bit surprised. But apparently, other than that...
Or maybe it's one of those, like they get a serial killer alert on your phone, and they're like, okay, we got a curfew tonight. That kind of thing.
Exactly. Everybody go home.
We got a Batman villain alert. Everybody do curfew.
That's right. I suppose it's true.
Like a bat signal, perhaps.
What a shocker.
On your phone.
And
we have an app for that.
I love that we have an app for that. And we, of course, do find out that Tim is a big Batman and Robin fan from the Bat logo on his, I think it's his delivery satchel.
Yeah.
And he actually gets it. Speaking of racism, we actually gets in trouble with some cops over it. And, of course, the only cops he runs into are racist ones.
White cops, yes.
Yeah, and of course, but this is all dropped because the cops get the call out of what has gone down at the amusement park. So
he also talks his way out of it a little bit because he's like, hey, you want some dumplings?
He bribes them with dumplings.
I'll hook you up if you don't throw me in jail.
And then also, I think, but there is then that moment of where he's like, I love the Bat, a big fan of the Batman, etc. And the cops are like, what did you say, kind of thing. And then I think the call comes over the squad box, and so they have to rush off to see what's happened.
That was one word, boy, from being full racist. Like, what did you say, boy? And
that's exactly it. And I guess maybe it's because in light of recent events, but I felt so uncomfortable in that moment. I know we've seen it a million times, Charles, but I don't get desensitized to it, which I think is maybe a good thing.
It is good. You should not be desensitized to that. It should bother you. It should upset you so that when it happens, you do something about it.
Very well put. And so what did you make of this, first introduction of Tim Drake, in this case as, a kid working at his parents' noodle house?
Yeah, I mean, it's very different, like I said, from the comics, but Tim seems like a good kid. He's hustling, for his parents, helping them out. He's very loyal. Now, there was something that I thought was a little concerning was when he goes back to his family restaurant.
Yep.
That he runs into his cousin is there, and apparently we get the vibe that his cousin is up to something shady. Maybe he's connected with the Red Hood. We don't know. I'm guessing there has to be some reason why they introduced that cousin.
Yes, and the fact that he's so connected and so on.
Yeah. So he's got something shady going on, but Tim's relationship with his parents seems really good because when he finds out about Robin's death, he's actually upset about it, and his mom kind of consoles him about it because she knows how much he cares about Batman and Robin. So it shows that he at least has a good relationship with his parents.
I love that because it kind of reminded me, of course, you have your heroes or whatever, and your hero passes away, and I love just because maybe probably his parents couldn't almost care less about Batman and Robin, or. Because it isn't really sort of explained where they see them as a menace or as a help. It's hard to say.
Well, I think that it depends on the person in Gotham City. I think the way they explain it is like some people don't like them, some people do.
Yeah, but as it tends to be in the comics, as some people view him as a dangerous vigilante, others see him as the savior of Gotham City. But yeah, I just loved, as you said, that she's like, I'm so sorry, that sweetie, and all this kind of thing. So I love the dynamic with his parents, but it also seems somewhat that Tim might have a little bit of a rebellious streak in the sense that, he's kind of late and his parents are like, you're late, what have you been doing? And then he mentions the whole thing about the cops and they kind of get suspicious about that. Yeah. They're almost like, what cops are you talking about? Who was it? Because it seems evidently, maybe his parents know the cops well, unless they keep passing, maybe it's they pass by to eat at the noodle house. Or I don't know, but
or maybe they're just the neighborhood cops who, that have a very bad reputation, perhaps. Mm. Because I know that I grew up in a family restaurant with my family, and there were cops in our little small town that used to cause a lot of trouble.
Right.
And a lot of grief for everybody. A little corrupt cops going on. So I sympathize with that because I'm sure they're just like, okay, who was it? Because, they're probably concerned about their son.
True, definitely. and yeah, you know what? It was such a small tease, if you will, of this character. And I really wanted more, but granted, I guess we had more. There was so much boiling in the pot at this point. I guess we couldn't dwell on Tim Drake that long. But I think Lycurgo did a great job, as an introduction. And I think to the point where I was like, I really want to see more of this guy. I want to see where he's going. I want to know what
presumably we are going to see more of him. But, yeah, Lycurgo did a really good job. I mean, this is just more of a tease for Tim. Setting things up like, hey, we're going to introduce this character. And by the end of the season, excuse me, he's probably going to be the new Robin.
Yes.
I mean, I'll be very surprised if he's not the new Robin.
Well,
the question is, but like I said, the question is, will he be working for Batman or Nightwing?
Yeah, I mean, because there have, as I said, been quite a few surprises already, so it makes you wonder what happens.
Maybe he'll join the Titans, perhaps.
It would be a nice addition to the Titans. And did you notice, I know we're kind of doubling back a little bit, that Raven is barely mentioned.
Yeah.
They almost don't seem to acknowledge the fact that Raven isn't there. I mean, only Gar seems to say one thing about Raven, but that's
Corey never says a word about Raven, that I could remember. Rachel, she's like, she kind of brings up Donna's death a little bit, but nobody else seems to be like, oh, yeah, where's Rachel? No explanation. Nobody even cares. It's kind of weird. It's like, I mean, we don't know how long it's been. Did they tell us how many months it had been since Donna's funeral?
But the fact that they actually still talk about it, etc., it mustn't have been that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it still seems pretty fresh in their minds, also seeing where certain characters are at. But still, I just thought it was odd that she was never mentioned, seeing what a big part, as like you said, she played in Starfire's life. Yeah. So it was odd. And the only person who seems to acknowledge her is Gar, a.k.a. Beast Boy. But it's like a throwaway line, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it was weird. But anyways.
It was weird.
Anyways, getting back on the tracks here, let's get to actually did you have anything else about Tim Drake before we get to our, okay.
Let's move on.
So moving on here, let's get to our next topic, Under the Red Hood. And it is revealed that the man behind this string of murders is none other than Jason Todd as the Red Hood, who...
What?
Oh my God, it's crazy. Who while killing...
Shock.
Exactly.
Gasp.
Who, while killing off mob members, seems to be slowly but surely taking over the underworld and is hungry for what he perceives as revenge on those who have wronged him. So, I mean, Charles, you and I, of course, knew who was behind the Red Hood, obviously.
Yeah.
But when this new persona came about, what did you think of his debut?
Well, excuse me, not really fan of the mask. Because the helmet, I think that the designer could have done a little bit better with that. If anything, get rid of the mouth on that thing. Because it just looks silly. It's almost like he's kind of like an emoji.
Okay.
So, but, not very intimidating helmet. But apart from that, I think that, I think they did, as far as depicting Jason as the Red Hood, because, Curran Walters. I was trying to think of the guy's name. So Curran Walters, he's not exactly the most impressive physically. He's short. No. So I think the way that they had to be very creative about how they shot this character to make him look intimidating. Because otherwise, it's just tiny Jason Todd running around with a mask helmet and and a leather jacket with a gun. That's it. So
and he's basically creeping out the mob bosses and everything else of Gotham City.
But he's kind of using almost Batman-like tactics. He's essentially trying to intimidate and cause fear Again, we have fear being instilled here. So maybe something to pay attention to. But yeah, he essentially calls all these hoods to what we find out is Hobbs' Powder House. They don't know who called them together. And then all of a sudden you see this bag thrown on the table, and you open up the bag because, what's in the box? What's in the box?
Though at first we keep hearing that voice like, open it.
Yes.
Open it.
Open the bag.
and the person like, screw you.
Right,
Why are we going to open the bag?
Well, I thought it was funny because they have no idea where he is. So they just
kind of
start shooting wildly around the warehouse or wherever they are. So it's like, okay, let's just spray bullets everywhere and hope that we hit him. That'll solve it.
Of course.
Let's waste our ammo perfectly. Brilliant.
In perfect stormtrooper fashion. No aim. Or
Yeah, exactly. But so Jason's all trying to be all intimidating, like I said. And inside the bag are these severed heads of crime bosses, like they're number twos. So like they're number one guys.
Yes.
To use a Jack Palance reference from Batman 1989. And Jason introduces himself as the Red Hood. It's like, okay, I'm the new guy in town. Even though I'm maybe all of 5'6". But you guys are going to answer to me. And so let's make a deal. Like, I'll take care of your vigilante problem here in Gotham City, and in exchange, you will give me 40% of your cut. So, which is pretty steep.
Oh, yeah.
So he's asking a lot. I'm thinking these guys should okay, well, or we could just pay somebody, kill you, and take care of the problem, hire somebody to take care of the problem for us. That we don't have to pay 40% of our cut. But okay. That's me, but that's my criminal mind thinking, I guess. But Jason, yeah, he seems to trying to, establish himself as this force, and we'll see where that leads. But for right now, Jason, we don't know it's Jason yet. We don't get that revealed until the end of the second episode.
Yes.
But it seems, pretty obvious. We knew Jason, especially after that death scene, that we knew he was going to become the Red Hood. So it wasn't, as getting back to your original question, it wasn't much of a surprise to me at all.
I know, for us, it was pretty much telegraphed.
I think it was more if you didn't read the comics, you didn't know anything about the Red Hood, you would have been like, oh my God, it's Jason Todd, which is great.
And it rhymes too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, it's Jason Todd. That should be on a T-shirt, right?
Yes. You make a great point about the fact that I suppose, Jason being a little bit of a pint size, if you will, at this point, it was a curious contrast to the animated version of Under the Red Hood, which, folks, if you haven't seen, I strongly suggest you do because it is fabulous. It is so well done from the DC animated universe. It just is awesome stuff. And there, of course, Jason is a grown man.
Or read the original source material in the comics.
Or read the source material, of course, even better.
Yeah.
But because in that and the animated version, Jason is literally a grown man by this point.
Yeah.
So
because
he's more imposing.
He hasn't been Robin for a while. So when he comes back, he's older, and it's much more of a shock.
Yeah, and plus he's much more formidable in that sense because he's had time to really hone his skills, both with weapons.
Yeah, exactly, and hold him, essentially be more of a physical match for Batman. Although here we're presented that Jason is a physical match for Nightwing, which I have a hard time because up till now Jason was really easily taken down by Nightwing. We remember that scene in season 2 where Jason tries to punch him, and then Dick just face plants him right there on the ground in a split second. So I have a hard time buying that fight between them that we see toward the end of episode 2.
And I guess, and if memory serves, I believe Brenton Thwaites actually has Curran Walters beat by quite a bit when it comes to the hype department as well.
A little bit, yeah. He's got a little bit of a longer reach. So in a fist fight, Nightwing would mop the floor with Jason.
Yeah, and
This Jason at least, yeah.
And I think that's probably also why in this particular version he does revert to the tactics that he does, more of the psychological stuff, because maybe he knows he might be lacking a little bit in the physical department, because he wouldn't. When would he have had the time to train?
That's what
properly?
she said. Oh,
well played. But yeah. So in fact, I'm kind of glad that when we actually got the fights, it wasn't that drawn out. It's like, oh look, Jason has suddenly become such an accomplished fighter, because it would have been totally unbelievable, because there's not enough time would have elapsed for him to have been such a threat. But yeah, I agree with you. The mask did distract me sometimes. It did seem a little bit weird.
It did look a little just a tad too goofy. I mean, I get what they were going for, but those big white eyes, those almost cartoonish white eyes, they weren't menacing enough. The mask did not look menacing enough. I guess what it boils down to.
At first, I thought they'd almost like ripped off the Deadpool mask, because it almost looks like Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool mask.
Yeah. Like that moment where he's got his hands on his face going like, oh, what? Doing the Home Alone move.
I think they kind of got that from like the Halloween store with like Deadpool with that expression on his face. It's like, come on, they borrowed that from Deadpool.
Yeah, they went down to like Party City, the party party store, and picked that up for like $9.99.
Wait, I guess Jason maybe is not very particularly financially liquid at this point, so maybe he has to make do with what he's got.
Maybe, yeah, maybe he did a little. He waited for Amazon Prime Day, I guess, or
exactly. It's Black Friday.
Black Friday, yeah. There you go.
I can see, I can buy this now. But yeah, moving right along here, in order to figure out more about this mysterious serial killer who we don't know yet, we learned that the GCPD has enlisted the help of the Master of Fear himself, Jonathan Crane, a.k.a. the Scarecrow.
Because that'll go over well. That will end perfectly, I'm sure.
Who seems to apparently in this version be a stoner, which I thought was a curious twist to it.
It's very interesting. You're right. Yeah, he's like a blazing version of Dr. Hannibal Lecter in this.
Yeah, he's like, what would Dr. Lecter be like if he enjoyed marijuana?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do Dr. Hannibal Lecter with a bong, and that's our Scarecrow. Okay.
So
we'll give him a big hippie beard and get him stoned. Asking for what I thought was interesting, very specific ingredients, which I kind of wonder is like, since you brought up the Scarecrow, so are those like, the bong ingredients actually ingredients for something else? Like maybe something that a compound he's going to create to use to get out of Arkham Asylum, or out of Arkham Asylum. What do you think?
That could be an idea
for his big breakout.
I mean, he does seem to really know his weed, because he's very specific, like you said, on the kind of weed that he wants. Because he says that apparently, maybe kind of like Sherlock Holmes, he kind of needs to get high in order to solve stuff. I guess because Sherlock had his heroin addiction.
Yeah, the 7% solution. Look it up. It's legit. So because he did a little bit of heroin on the side, but I think I'm very suspicious about those very specific ingredients because if Scarecrow's asking them like, oh yeah, I want to light up, I want to blaze up.
It helps me think better. Helps my brain slow down.
But they also wouldn't treat it seriously. Like, okay, he's just going to use it to get stoned, so he's not a threat. So let's just give him the chemicals, which it's the Scarecrow. You should not be giving him any chemicals whatsoever. Okay?
Yeah, because of course, he is a master chemist, as we know.
Have you not been paying attention here? You should not be giving him any chemicals, no matter what he does for you, ever.
And in fact, no surprise, Dick is very gun-shy about why should I give you anything.
Yeah,
because obviously Dick is sent, of course, to talk to the Scarecrow. And it's almost like you very well point out, some Clarice Starling, Hannibal Lecter exchange where I'll help you catch your killer, but this is what I want. And
hello, Grayson.
That's right. And yeah, it was a very weird portrayal of
You know
the
what you looked
Scarecrow.
like to me, Mr. Grayson? You look like a rube with your bad shoes and your cheap bag. No.
Fabulous. But yeah, it's I just thought this was a very, very weird version of the Scarecrow, and he's actually a character that I've always loved in any medium, be it the Batman animated show, or the comics, or even the Nolan films. He was really well played.
He's a cool villain.
Very weird.
He's a cool villain, and especially in the comics right now, you should be reading the Fear State in Batman comics right now.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's
Jorge Jimenez is doing a superb job drawing Scarecrow right now. It's incredible. Highly recommended.
I'm a big fan of it myself, because the last time I thought the Scarecrow really looked amazing was way back when but it kind of escapes me now at this point. But yeah, the Scarecrow's had some weird changes throughout his history. Some were terrible, some were great. No Man's Land, I thought, was one of the best Scarecrows I'd ever seen.
That was a good one. Yeah.
And it had been pretty much since No Man's Land since I've seen a good Scarecrow, because now, as you said, Fear City is absolutely fabulous. The latest stuff that Scarecrow has been doing is awesome. But yeah, the exchange between the two was interesting. But you do almost wonder whether the Scarecrow knew all along who Red Hood was. And it might actually add fuel to your theory, Charles, that he'd probably been working behind bars with Jason.
I definitely feel that they're working together. I totally agree on that, yeah.
Because he seems like, I'll think about it and everything else, and then we get the whole thing of, this was taken from, we start to get the whole stuff of the cat and mouse games that Jason starts to play. Of course, the whole thing of the opening moves. What did you?
So right? What they do is they introduce they eventually introduce this story idea of the birds opening in chess. That's supposedly Jonathan Crane figures out by, looking on the back of the note that Nightwing was given. So
exactly.
So interesting that comes to mind rather quickly, and supposedly this is just the first move according to Crane. Whoever's running the show has so much more planned. Well, how would Crane know that? There's no real way unless he was the one who had more planned.
And if he's got this bird fetish, it's no surprise he would use Jonathan Crane, whose last name is
Crane,
a bird.
Right, exactly. I'm glad you picked up on that. Yeah, and so they, Dick, Corey, and Don's trying to start figuring this out. After learning about this, they end up spelling out Robin, and they realize that one of the women that was essentially forced into the Red Hood gang was on a bird named street, so they start searching other streets with bird themed names.
Yeah.
So all of this feels like to me this big master plan, like Scarecrow and with Red Hood's help being on the outside is just manipulating everybody. He's orchestrating events. This is all part of the plan.
I think so too, and I love the fact that there apparently is a bird district in Gotham.
Yeah,
they have all the various. I suppose they were running out of names.
Well, maybe Penguin hangs out there. I don't know.
Exactly, maybe the Iceberg Lounge is right there. Could very well.
Probably.
But because maybe they were running out of names. It's like, okay, we've given the names of all the artists and writers who've worked on Batman. Let's just go bird themed at this point.
Like we ran out of comic book creators to use as street names, so let's what's next? Bird names. There you go. Perfect.
What an idea. But yeah, I'm a big fan of, noir films and, kind of serial killer stories, all those crime thriller stuff.
Yeah.
So I was kind of enjoying this game of cat and mouse that Jason was playing. It kind of reminded me a little bit of some Batman, comics that we've actually seen in the past, like Hush, for example. It was kind of reminiscent of the Hush storyline.
Yeah.
Did you get those kind of vibes?
Well, yeah, because if you remember Hush from Batman comics, that also teased the potential return of Jason Todd.
Yeah.
But turned out to be not Jason Todd, as it turns out. It was
Yeah.
all a manipulation there as well. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it does have a very psychological thriller vibe here because, especially, with the Scarecrow trying to be like an ersatz Dr. Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
And, just it's all set up. It seems like, like I said, I think they're, that later on, Dick finds out that, after confronting Jason, he finds out that Jason's coffin was empty. So either Jason faked his death or someone did it for him. So that right there screams to me, yes, Jason is working with somebody. And it's probably the Scarecrow.
And speaking of which,
or
what do you make
here's a question now. Does maybe the Scarecrow have Jason under his thrall?
Ooh. Well, it could be it could all be that at the end of the day, the big bad is literally the Scarecrow. And that this is just, the beginning. Granted, okay, we'll be dealing with another villain down the line very soon,
Right.
which I don't know how the heck they're going to be able to play with all this, but that's another story. But I do wonder whether, should we say the one pulling the strings is literally the Scarecrow, because you mentioned the fact of Bruce's erratic behavior and, of course, Jason's inhaler and everything else. So it either could be one big master plan of the Scarecrow literally, moving these guys around like puppets and just enjoying the chaos that ensues from what he's doing.
Well, and now you're introducing this chess metaphor to everything, that, it's all chess moves. It's all a game. So that kind of means that some players are pawns. They're getting pushed around the board. And some players get taken off the board, like in the case of a certain Hank Hall.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Well, definitely, and so I guess there's a lot of things going on, and the whole concept of also the these folks being controlled by drugs, wearing the red hood, both the shall we say the messed up bank heist, which of course puts the Titans in a terrible light, especially with Barbara and the relationship between Barbara and Dick.
Yeah,
and of course because
that went completely sideways.
Yeah, because Dick thought he had it figured out. He's like, we're going to just go in and talk to them. It'll be fine.
Yeah, they're like, we'll talk to them, but don't worry. We've got like Gar and Superboy looking for the kids. So it's all good. Once the parents realize their kids are safe, it'll all turn out fine. And, because Barbara was ready to go in with her men.
She wanted to storm the bank. Literally.
Yeah, so she's like, Dick's putting, using his relationship with Barbara to like, hey, trust me on this. But it turns out, well, hey, you guys miscalculated that, Garf, I guess, they found the kids. Superboy found the kids, but then Gar finds a second van that had the parents. Yeah, so it actually, there were actual criminals in the bank. Now, I have no idea why the Titans could not defeat those criminals. That seemed a little convenient for me. But, okay, let's just roll with it that they were thrown off guard for like a split second, and average criminals could defeat the Titans. Okay.
And the fact that should we say, the robbers didn't survive the explosion or whatever it is, but the Titans did come out of that building, the exploded building unscathed.
Right, yeah. Okay. Well, maybe maybe the criminals were suicide. Like maybe
like suicide bombers, or
like
what
the
have
Scarecrow had messed with their heads and wanted them because that way they wouldn't get caught. They wouldn't leave any witnesses to maybe lead back to Scarecrow, perhaps. So maybe it was their intent. He intended them to die, perhaps.
Yeah, and whoever is behind this,
or Red Hood did, maybe one or the other.
And it shows that whoever's behind this is incredibly unpredictable. And if it's either all master planned by Jason, it goes to show how unpredictable he is and how maybe little Dick maybe knows about him, or just he just presumes he did it once with one person, he'll do it again. And obviously Jason learns, he's like, I'm not going to repeat the same crime I did before. I'm going to switch it up a bit because now it's, Dick is smart. He'll latch on. So he switches it up. So I think it was great how everything was almost, how Dick is so sure of himself, but it all blows up in his face, literally.
Yeah.
And it just drives a wedge even more so between him and Barbara. So I think it was also the plan at the end of the day.
Distance them even more a little bit here. So
yeah, so it probably all part of the game.
Yep.
So did you have anything else on this, Charles, before we move forward?
Nope. Let's move on.
Okay, so let's now temporarily shift our focus to other members of the Titans.
Something that isn't Batman for like all of 5 seconds. Yeah.
Exactly. Starting with our favorite Tamaranian and somebody that she will probably be hooking up with. We shall see for how long. The topic title is What Happens in Vegas. And we are, of course, looking at Starfire or Coriander, take your pick, and Justin Cole.
So Justin Cole, remember that psychiatrist from Corey's booty call in Vegas in the episode EL_0 or _O? That guy that you probably completely forgot about.
Exactly.
I completely forgot about him until here he is on the screen again. So all of a sudden, calling up Corey again, just as she happens to be having some other issues, right?
Exactly. Well, before actually all that, because you mentioned him after bringing Gizmo down, and of course having been interviewed by the TV station. Corey receives a phone call, like you said, from Justin Cole, the therapist that she makes in Vegas, and they catch up, and he confronts her over her never calling him. And then, of course, they arrange a date. And you mentioned, Charles, you were surprised. I mean, did your mind then go to, I know who he is? Or first were you literally, who is this guy? When he calls Corey to congratulate her.
Well, when he called her and he kind of, and, she recognized him, I kind of was like, okay, who is this guy? And I had to think for a minute. And I'm like, oh, is that the booty call guy from season 2? And yeah, it was the booty call guy. So I thought, but I was like, okay, well, that's an interesting character to bring back. I thought it was a very throwaway character, but apparently, so are they trying to start up a relationship, a genuine relationship that isn't Dick and Corey here? Corey with somebody else, or is something up with this guy? Because we're not really sure, because all of a sudden he starts calling her out of the blue, like, hey, I haven't talked to you since we had sex in that hotel room for back a year ago or one season ago.
I've been watching all your interviews and everything else.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, I just saw you on TV, thought I'd call you up after all this time. What's up? And
how are you doing?
How you living? So the question is, why is he doing this all of a sudden? Is it just that he started thinking about her? Or, was he just thinking about her or what?
I mean, either, there's more to him than meets the eye, and it will probably make sense. But the other thing is, I think, or maybe he literally is possibly still, was just blown away by their time in Vegas. It's like, heck, I love this girl. I have to talk to her. And Corey and Corey really seems very happy to hear from him, because you can see she's smiling. She's almost embarrassed, if you will, when he's talking to her. She gets a little bit bashful over the phone. So evidently there is still some unfinished business between the two, which that was what the vibe I got, because you could clearly tell that she was surprised, but she was definitely not upset that he called her. It's I'm happy to hear from you and stuff. So there is that chemistry between the two, so maybe it's just why not? Let's all. In fact, they do say they'd meet up, and when their schedules open, they'll meet up. So I like this introduction, and hopefully Justin Cole is not a bad guy. I really hope not. But I guess
we'll
psychiatrist. I don't know.
Maybe he's behind it all. Ooh.
He's the big bad.
Working with Mephisto. Wait, that's a different show.
He's Trigon come back.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, it's curious timing because unfortunately Corey is having difficulties, as it turns
Indeed,
out.
she is.
So,
because she
go
seems
ahead.
to be suffering. No, because yeah, as you said, Charles, she seems to be suffering from these mental episodes in which we keep getting these visions of doctors wheeling somebody away on a stretcher, which then cause her to involuntarily transport herself to random places. Or either that, or she starts talking in Tamaranian and randomly starts shooting at people like Gar and Superboy just out of nowhere.
They kind of like follow her around the house, and then she's just like ranting in Tamaranian, and then she goes and like almost tries to burn down the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes her do the most random things.
Yeah, and when she's doing it uncontrollably. So the question is, was she experimented upon, and if so, when? Does it go back all the way to that season 1 episode Asylum, maybe?
It could be.
The one I'm talking about where Corey was, all the Titans were being held in this facility, and then there were various experiments performed on them.
It could be because the fact that it seems that whenever, she's almost either thinking of Jason or anything like that, or anything's brought up about hospitals and what have you, because she, I guess, at some point visits Barbara to kind of see what she can figure out about Jason once it's revealed that he is the Red Hood, and how did he leave the morgue and everything else, and that's when all this stuff keeps flying up. But yeah, these visions that she's being played of doctors, it really makes me think, like you were saying, that she might have been experimented on, because maybe these doctors were scientists and they'd found her, or it may even explain her origin from way back when.
Well, yeah, because if you remember in the comics, in the New Teen Titans comics, the Marv Wolfman, George Perez comics, Corey got her Starfire powers originally from being experimented upon when she was essentially sold as a slave, and even though she was Tamaranian royalty, but she was, sold as a slave, and she and her sister Blackfire, Commander, who later became Blackfire, were experimented upon by an alien race known as the Scions. Ooh. And because of that experimentation, that's how Starfire and Blackfire got their energy weapon powers.
Mm-hmm.
So is it maybe these doctors are a metaphor for that? Maybe it's like a repressed memory that's coming through, perhaps, with Corey, that she was experimented upon before she came to Earth? Or,
it could be.
Or is there some earthly, terrestrial reason for that?
Maybe we might get some answers in episode 4, seeing the title of episode 4 and who's going to be showing up in episode 4. So it could be.
That could be. We'll find out.
Because,
to be continued.
Because also, as I said, her powers, either and might help her get in touch with these abilities that she has, i.e. of being able to teleport, as we notice that she finds herself in the middle of a street.
Yeah, that was new. That was new. It's like I've never seen Starfire teleport before.
Yeah, because she's like, suddenly she kind of snaps out of it and she's in the middle of a street and cars are rushing past her.
Yeah.
And so that was crazy. But obviously this is the way for her and Cole to connect, because he is a psychiatrist. And so, as you mentioned, she calls him up again saying, I'm kind of having these episodes. Maybe we should meet up sooner than later to talk about that.
At least she opened up to him, so made sense, right? Hey, this guy, and maybe that was the plan, perhaps. But the Corey reaches out and says, hey, yeah, I'm having these difficulties. You're a therapist, you're a psychiatrist. Maybe there's something you can help me with here. And maybe we could, talk more, like you said.
Exactly. As I said, maybe Dr. Cole's solution is, I'll give you some love therapy.
Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's hope he's more serious.
I hope not. He might. He would.
I mean, he wasn't much of a professional when we saw him in the season 2 episode.
That's what I'm saying.
But hopefully he's regained a little bit of professionalism since then. Fingers
I don't know,
crossed.
because I
Fingers
can
crossed
imagine.
for Corey.
Because I can imagine her heading over
Like,
to his office, and it's
I
like the
prescribe,
lights.
I prescribe sweet loving down by the fire. Signed, Dr. Love.
That's what I'm imagining, because
Yeah.
I almost see Corey going to his office. The lights are really low. There's Marvin Gaye playing in the back.
Barry
It's like,
White or something. Yeah, yeah.
it's like, let's play doctors and nurses kind of thing. Anyway, but yeah, it definitely will bring the two
The
together.
Austin Bowers bed spins around from the wall, that kind of thing.
I have a feeling. I mean, granted, I'm sure we won't get that, but I could so see that happening. But yeah, it's definitely obviously a narrative tool to bring the two together, because obviously he's a doctor and she's got a problem. So there you have it.
There you go. There you go.
Exactly. So anything more about Starfire and Justin Cole, Charles?
No, I just want to say that about Starfire, that it's nice that finally, it's season 3, we see her in a superhero costume, being a superhero. And
she's updated her wardrobe.
Yeah, it's not, she's come a long way, let's face it, from that season 1 space hooker vibe.
When she was in furs, I think it was.
Yeah, this big, 70s, hooker coat with, with all kinds of big hoop earrings and whatnot. Yeah, it wasn't not exactly the most heroic look for her. So kudos to Corey for upgrading her wardrobe. So points there from the fashion police. She also kind of steps up a little bit when Dick's not around to kind of become like the deputy leader of the Titans, because she's the next oldest, presumably. True,
yes. So there's definitely quite a step up in, and Anna Diop I always love Anna Diop. I think she's great at what she does. So definitely glad that this character got a strong start for this next season.
My only concern, real quick, is that I think that she could be a little less street, in her delivery. I think because she's supposed to be an alien from another planet, but she doesn't really act like an alien from another planet.
So
she just acts like the girl from down the street.
So you're almost kind of waiting for her to say stuff like, what I'm saying, kind of.
Well,
thing.
not in the stereotypical way, but I think that I don't think she should be a stereotype, but I just think she thinks that she should be just a little more eccentric. Perhaps not.
Right. No, of course.
Like someone who is new to this planet, perhaps, and doesn't know everything.
Very much. No, it's true. It seems like she's adjusted.
Yeah.
Very, very well, because
it's like she's been on Earth all her life. It's not like.
In the multiple iterations of this character, as you said, she's much more eccentric. I think even of the animated series Teen Titans, where she's way over the top.
Right.
And she's just is totally
that's
out of touch.
Like a cartoon. I mean, it's a cartoon. So you don't need something so stereotypical or, so out there. But it should just be like, okay, you should at least occasionally be reminded, she's an alien. And not just because of her powers.
I agree. Maybe they should have developed the Tamaranian side maybe a little bit more, or what have. Heck, it might. I guess maybe
they will. I don't know, but
exactly.
We'll see what happens.
Coming up soon, it may be the right time to do that. So let's get to 2 other members of the Titans, whom we get quite a bit of throughout the course of these 3 episodes. This topic is entitled Bad Boys 2, and we are, of course, talking about Superboy and Beast Boy. So, Charles,
have you seen Bad Boys 2? You had to have seen Bad Boys 2.
Well, I was a big fan. I was a big fan of that franchise, especially the first one.
Okay.
But the second one, not so much. But it's okay.
Yeah.
But the first one is the best one. It's kind of like Men in Black. It got progressively worse as it went on.
Yeah. Well, I just recently watched Hot Fuzz with Zan, so Bad Boys 2 was kind of in my head when I was thinking of that title.
Totally. I could totally see that. But, I know that you, being a huge Superman fan, are also a big Superboy fan, if memory serves.
Right.
What did you make of Gar and Connor in this?
Well, first, one of the things something I don't know if you noticed or not, but Isn't it interesting that after all the events of season 2, where Connor gets in trouble with the law, Gar gets in trouble with the law, and just suddenly all of their legal problems. Dick, was in prison. All their legal problems have seemed to mysteriously vanished somehow.
The absence of consequences.
Right. I mean, just Dick was in prison last season. He's became a fugitive, and
and the worst origin story of Nightwing ever.
So I think what the writers must have done, and I'm actually grateful that they did this. Mm-hmm. The writers have probably realized, okay, everybody hated this, so let's just pretend it never happened.
Take a big wet sponge and just sponge it out.
We will never speak of it again, is their attitude here. So, like Gar's legal problems, what per legal problems? Somehow let's just admit, let's say, something happened off between seasons that maybe Bruce's crack team of lawyers fixed everything magically. Waved their little lawyer briefcases and everything was okie dokie, once again, with zero consequences.
I have been watching, I did rewatch for the nth time The Godfather, so I did kind of imagine the Godfather music playing, and so no problems anyway. So I will take care of it for you.
Yeah, exactly. but it struck me, it's just like, okay, so we're just not going to address any of the legal problems that they got into? Nope. 3 episodes, not mentioned once.
No, these guys seem like pretty much living it up and enjoying life.
Yeah, now they're just back to the bromance, which is great, because it's like it's almost like I said, the writers just realized, okay, we really screwed that up, so let's just pretend it never happened and act like everything's okay again. So we'll use the time jump to our advantage, but somehow it got resolved, but we're not going to tell you how. And So we got Gar and Superboy back. Connor's back, and they're doing the bromance thing. They're with the Titans, and they have a nice little successful mission, taking down Gizmo. But the cops want Superboy's autograph, not Gar's. He's a little miffed by that.
Yeah.
So
do you think, how can you top a super?
Right. So do you think that's going to cause some resentment, or do you think Gar is going to try to overcompensate to try to be on Superboy's level?
I think the latter over the former, because we actually do then see, of course, what does Beast Boy watch? Nature programs, obviously. What else would he watch, right? A guy who turns into a giant tiger, a green tiger, of course.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, maybe I could, I don't know, change into other animals besides tigers?
And no surprise, there's quite the allusion to what the animals.
Well, there was that one time I turned into a snake, but then I never turned into a snake ever again.
But yeah, there was obviously the animals we saw on screen that he was watching. There was, of course, the gorilla, which is one of Beast Boy's favorites.
Right.
I believe there was an eagle or a hawk, I believe, as well. So I think it's going to be the latter.
You should be watching Lord of the Rings, where you have that big eagle. That's the one you should be changing into. Or maybe Godzilla movies. Turn into Godzilla. It's a lizard.
Be so cool.
Turn into Godzilla.
That would be so cool. I would love if Beast Boy went to kind of primitive, if you will, and did that stuff. But I think so. I think it's going to be motivation to up his game of, it's great doing the tiger thing, but it's getting a bit tired if I can only turn into a tiger.
It's been like 2 seasons of Tiger. Yeah, you could do something a little different. Step it up. Step your game up, Garfield.
Yes, it's becoming a little bit of a one-trick pony, I suppose, to stay within the animal realm.
So,
but
fingers crossed for more animals.
I hope so, because that's why, of course, we know him as Beast Boy, and that's his thing. That's his shtick.
He seems to have, in the fight scenes, Gar has his fighting skills down as a human.
Yeah.
So let's see him evolve as a shapeshifter as well.
I would love to see that, and I totally agree. I love the bromance between the two, and I think Gar, of course, is a little bit hurt maybe by the fact that nobody wants his autograph, but I just love how the two play against each other. I think it's just so off each other, pardon me. So it's just fabulous. Not to mention when the stakes are raised and Superboy has to come up with little gizmo to obviously save Hawk's life.
Yeah.
Who's there motivating him but Gar, who's like kind of sitting there going, "You could do it, you could do it," kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's almost like Paulie to his Rocky, if you will.
Well, that, and I also like that Gar was there with Hank, trying to be with him, hang out in bed.
Yeah.
As they, be supportive because nobody else was around.
Yeah, because they were watching, I guess, TV and just kind of cracking jokes while watching TV.
Yeah, or just, maybe he was trying to keep Hank calm.
Yes.
So wouldn't be so stressed out, but at least he gave him some companionship there at the end before he got all blowed up real good.
Mm-hmm.
But and poor Superboy's there with like ashes in his hands, going like,
which is absolutely
missed it
terrible.
by that much.
Yeah, it was absolutely terrible. But no, I think that they maybe bring the fact that even more so that Gar is literally the heart of the team.
Well, he should be. He should be.
That's what who Beast Boy is.
Yeah, he should be that. He's one of those. They did give him something to do where he's the one who figures out that Corey and Connor, they're studying those chess moves, were going about the wrong way. That they shouldn't be focused so much on how the bird's opening progresses, but they should be focused on how to defeat it.
Exactly.
So.
And he actually also, I believe, at some point tries to get in contact with Bruce to try and let him know that Jason is the Red Hood.
Yeah. Remember, because I think, was it Gar was like one of those that was. He was also intimidated.
He's the fanboy as well.
He's a fanboy, so it makes sense. Like, okay, well, I guess I have to call Batman now. Gee, darn.
Yeah, and that's why he kind of sends the sort of the recorded message to Bruce, which because obviously he said he's the fanboy, and I love the fanboying that he does even in this. He's like, "Oh, do we get to see him? And he's the only one, as we mentioned before, that even thinks about Raven."
Yeah, I know. Which it's kind of sad, really. I mean, yeah, he kind of crushed on her, but you would think somebody else would. Give her a spare kind thought once in a while.
Yeah, especially Corey, as we mentioned. I mean, I believe it is confirmed that Tegan Croft will be returning.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a trailer at the very end that for this rest of the season, so we do get to see Rachel's returning. So
right, no, exactly. Because I mean, since she was Tegan Croft did such a great job.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Because she had one of the strongest performances, I think, throughout the show so far. She was really very much a revelation. Yeah. So, anything about our bros, further about our bros child before we get to the shocking moment of the crowning moment?
No, I just want to add, though, it's probably going to be, we'll see how Connor recovers from the traumatic events of
that's going to be
being a split second away from saving Hank, only to fail.
And we already know the kid has unresolved issues already.
Yeah.
And it's just going to pile on him. I guess it's literally like Superman. He carries the weight of the world on his shoulders. And that's what they're doing with Connor as well.
Well, I think also I thought it was interesting is he was using his Lex Luthor side this time by figuring out, how to, figuring out that antidote.
It was a great combination of the Superman genes with the speed,
right?
And of course, as you said, the Lex Luthor genius intellect.
The intellect, yeah, Lex's intellect.
And it's a beautiful coming together of the two, I thought, for sure. Yeah. And it's not. And I also have to. Last thing I want to add is it's nice to see Superboy not being moody.
Yeah, right.
It was a welcome change.
Of course, now that after watching Hank die, maybe he's going to go back be moody again. So. Let's hope not. Let's hope not.
It's like, yeah, I'm all happy and dandy. Like, and it's back to the Eeyore.
Back to emo Superboy.
I sincerely hope not, but I guess we'll have to see.
Yep.
So we come, of course, to the most shocking moment of these first 3 episodes. And Charles, being the great writer he is, has saved the best for last. And I definitely want to send him kudos for structuring our discussion this way. Final topic entitled Birds as Prey, which is very clever.
See what he did there? Instead of birds of prey, birds as prey.
I thought it was very clever. And of course, we are talking about our 2 birdies, Hawk and Dove.
Yep.
So last time we'd actually seen these 2, Charles, they had ostensibly broken up, and these are the consequences of that, which you get to see initially. Hank is trying out for the remake of the TV show Pacific Blue with his little bicycle.
Yeah, he's got his little bike. He's like a bike cop. So, a cop on a bicycle that goes around like universities and parks and whatnot, biking and ticketing people, probably ticketing their cars. So,
were you familiar with Pacific Blue?
I did not watch that show. No, but I am familiar with cops on a bicycle. So I saw them a lot, around where I work, in downtown Columbus. So I am familiar with them. But I guess they were using any excuse to get Alan Richardson in bicycle shorts, I guess. I don't know.
Of course, because we get to the fans of his get to see his bare butt, and I'm sure they must have been very happy about that. Yeah. And he spends a lot of time with his shirt off as well, so I'm sure a lot of folks are very happy about that. Yeah. But so of course he's a
cop in Washington D.C. I don't know how fast he became a cop and went through an academy, but okay. Again, we just roll with it because Titans and hashtag because
I love the writing in this.
we just brushed past all logic, but okay, fine. It's a comic book TV show. Roll with it. Okay, so he's in there, and I guess Dawn is still in Washington, D.C., but they're, like you said, they're not together. They're estranged, although it seems like Hank would love to get back with Dawn.
Oh, and then some, because we do find that Dawn is still carrying on as Dove, and they're, almost like she was an extension of the Titans, even though she's in Washington, because then she comes back. And, when it comes to actually, should we say, their ostensibly first meeting after that crazy breakup they'd had in Season 2, what did you make of, these 2 lovebirds? To continue the comparison, they're coming together at first.
Well, like I said, I think Hank was more interested in Dawn than Dawn was interested in Hank at this point. Dawn seems like she was ready to move on with her life. She's like, okay, look, the 2 of us together is really, really bad. And she seemed kind of resigned to that. Only when Hank ends up getting captured by Jason and a bomb put in his chest, it's only at that point that she realizes how much she still cares for Hank.
Yes. And apparently, because she actually says she has things to do, because he tries to invite her out on a date, even though, right after she
makes excuses, that kind of thing. Yeah.
She's like, I'm seeing this guy. I don't know if it's the realtor or whatever. Apparently because she seems to want to give him the slip or moment to let him know that she's seeing other people, which may or may not be true. It's hard to say, but she's like, I've got something to do. I'm washing my hair tonight or something like that. So it's like he really wants, like you said, he's more desperate to get back with her than she is. And the fact that ostensibly I don't think at this point he might even be working with the Titans at present, because he finds out that she is, but he was kind of not called back. I mean, did I miss something there?
Well, I think what it was, remember Hank in Season 2 had been reluctant to be Hawk because of his various addiction issues.
And also what had happened to because he'd sold his suit to that one guy.
Yeah, so it almost seems like between the time gap between Seasons 2 and 3 that Hank had probably okay, I don't think I want to be Hawk anymore, but I just want Dawn back. Like, maybe if I'm not Hawk, I can get her back.
Right.
But Dawn her attitude is like, I don't need Hank anymore. I'm just going to be Dove without Hawk. And
I'm just going to do me.
We're not going to be a partnership anymore. I'm just going to go solo now.
Yeah.
And, I think that helps with she's trying really hard to distance herself from Hank. And maybe she figures, well, hey, if I also keep being Dove, Hank doesn't want to be Hawk anymore. So that'll be another reason why I don't have to be near him.
And in fact, she actually challenges him when he's back at Titan's Tower, and she's like, "What are you doing here? This is my thing," And he's like, "It was our thing," kind of thing going on. So I guess it's they do have that awkward conversation, but I think that's the thing. He's still very much hung up on her, but
yeah,
she's,
I think the only reason the only reason he donned that Hawk costume again in episode 2 was that because of her. It wasn't so much that he wanted to be Hawk again. It's just he didn't want to lose her, so he became Hawk again just to be near her.
Oh, of course. I think any opportunity he has to be close to Dawn, he will definitely do that. And hey, I can't blame him. But after, and of course, here's a big moment that he got, because after the revelation that Jason is the Red Hood, and Hank has pretty much been bad-mouthing him constantly, who does he get a call from but Jason in tears, asking Hank to meet him at an undisclosed location. After he's been saying, "Oh, that little snot, I'll kick his teeth in," and everything else. And then, "Can you help me, Hank?" And he's kind of like crying.
I face palmed at this so hard. Because I'm like...
Now is your chance to tell me, Charles, what do you make of the call we had between Jason and Hank?
How stupid is Hank? First and foremost. And, I maybe shouldn't say that. I should say, how stupid do the writers think, or at least Jamie Gorenberg think Hank is? Because Hank, up until this point, was like, hey, we can't trust Jason. I want to actually take Jason off the board because he's obviously going to be a very serious threat, and you guys are going to be able to do it. Dawn has to try to talk him down from that. And then all of a sudden...
she's like, dial it down a notch.
Yeah, is she's saying dial it down. And then all of a sudden, Hank, he gets this call from Jason. And Jason gives him this big sob story. Regardless of the fact that, he just fought Dick in the previous episode. And is proven, apparently a bad guy now. Oh, okay. I'm going to go along with what you're saying. And to be fair, the audience maybe doesn't even really know that maybe Jason isn't himself. Maybe because of juicing up, that's something the Scarecrow has done to him. We don't know. But it also
he's developed a split personality.
But regardless, it's still extremely suspicious. And Hank, being a crime fighter for a while now, should have been like, okay, that's great, Jason, but let me just tell me where you are. I will come pick you up. And when it got to the point where, okay, Jason's leading him around town in a taxi cab, Hank's first instinct should have been like, okay, I'm not going to do this runaround thing anymore. You tell me where you are, or that's it. And I'm not playing why are you playing? He should have been questioning everything. Why are you playing these games with me? But to get Hank in the position where he wanted to be, Jamie Gorenberg wrote him as a complete moron. You had to be especially when he gets to the gym and he's there and Jason's like, okay.
He's like, strip down.
And so he gets down to his underwear. He's like, okay, see, I'm not wearing anything. And then all of a sudden Jason's like, take it all off. And so again, Hank should be like, why do you want me naked? Okay. And then he's naked. So Jason's like, get in the pool. And Hank is looking at this pool, which is all kinds of funky because it's an abandoned gymnasium. So there's all kind of bacteria, whatever, algae in the pool.
It hasn't been sanitized.
Hasn't been
cleaned.
Forever. There is no, hasn't been chlorinated. So Jason's like, swim the length of the pool to the other side. And at this point, if nothing else, why didn't Hank just walk the edge of the pool to the other side? Why is he swimming naked, I might add, all the way across the pool to get to the other side? The other side where his clothes are not, for one thing.
But hey, even before
am I alone in
he's
this?
told
I mean, am I just
no?
is
But
this just me?
Even before that, he gets told to destroy his cell phone.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
So Jason, who is supposedly really broken up and doesn't know what he's doing, just this weak little kitten that needs Hank's help, is just obviously manipulating. He's playing him. Hank does not for 1 second register, like, you would think by the time he took off his clothes and standing there naked at the edge of a dirty, infected pool, that maybe he should have taken a moment to pause and go, maybe this isn't on the level. Right?
I mean, and I'm sure that, like me, Charles, when Jason even first calls him and he's in tears, you're like, that's clearly an act. Mm-hmm. I mean, heck, the guy worked with Batman, who knows all sorts of tricks, of how you can play act, because we know that even from the comics and stuff, Batman is also an excellent actor. Yeah. So he must, and also Alfred was, of course, a stage actor. So, of course, they would have imparted this to Jason as part of the job. And I was like, I was all right, like, with him. Like, how the hell is he believing him? Not to mention, 5 minutes ago, you're like, I'm going to kick this kid's teeth in.
Yeah. So what happened to that? And then, so I expected Jason to just come out at the end of the pool, like, with a big cue card going, like, I am totally playing you, dude. You totally fell for it. Like, you totally fell for it. Like the idiot you are.
Popping out from a corner going, psych!
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, are you kidding me with this? I was sitting there watching this incredulous. Like, how dumb are you? So
I don't know. I guess Jason probably counted on Hank being a big dumb oaf.
Well, he was right, apparently, because sure enough, Hank gets this bomb implanted in his chest, and he has to go back to the Batcave, going like, hi, I'm back. And, by the way, I got this bomb implanted in my chest. And if I don't keep my heart rate down, it's going to speed up and I'm going to die. Whoops.
Yes. Really. Well,
don't be me.
The writers... oh, SpaghettiOs. But jeez.
I'm like, come on, man. Really?
If this is the way we're seeing a noble character like Hawk out, really?
He deserved better.
Bad.
He deserved better. It's like,
he very much did.
No, I mean, that's not to say I didn't enjoy this episode, but I'm just really incredulous. Like, why did it have to be that dumb? Honestly. Couldn't he be a little bit more heroic? Exit.
It was very poorly written. And, of course, as you mentioned...
Because it's like, congratulations, Hawk, you played yourself, and now you're dead.
Yeah, I mean, he only kind of has himself to blame, or his own stupidity. Yeah. But I guess, as you mentioned, after being baited and tapped, of course, Hank is sent back to the Titans with a surprise from Jason, the deadly bomb sewn into his chest and linked to his heartbeat. Apparently he has 4 hours remaining.
Right.
And, of course, Dawn, here's the nice thing, though, one of the better things of this is Dawn is the main one to take care of Hank in more ways than one.
Right.
And
Hank, that was another thing that just blew my mind.
It made me think of the Incredible Hulk film, Charles.
Kind of, but so
I can't have sex because my my heartbeats are racing up.
He's got a bomb on his chest. He's supposed to keep his heart rate down. Otherwise, it will speed up and it will kill him sooner. So, let's have sex? Really? Really?
And he's the one who starts, because he starts groping her, and then he grabs her.
He was getting really into it and getting excited. And so it's getting the blood going and the heart rate. And I'm like, what are these people thinking?
And I was like,
are we
okay,
supposed
so
to
this
take
is
these characters seriously with this?
not to mention, I was like, so nobody's pointing at that. So the time isn't going down faster at this point. Why?
Right.
Because it seemed like his heartbeat was remaining constant. I know he works out, but still,
right.
When certain chemicals are released, your heart rate's going to go up no matter what an athlete you are.
Yeah. And now, to be fair, they did stop, but
she had the presence of mind of saying we had to stop. We have to stop.
But that should have never started in the first place.
Exactly.
Seriously?
It's like, oh, we have to have them kind of romp a little bit because folks like them getting it on.
Here's a big what if. So if they hadn't almost had sex, would Superboy have had enough time to save Hank?
Ooh, yeah, and it may have actually prevented Dawn from pulling the trigger. She would have not even made it back because he would have had more than enough time to do it before she even was sent off on the crazy goose chase she gets sent on, which we will get to here shortly.
Yeah, because Dawn has her own moment of stupidity here as well, too.
So these are really two dumb birdies.
Wow.
Oh man, it is, and I agree with you.
These characters deserve better. I'm just saying.
They do, because they're incredibly, noble characters in the comics, and I love reading about them. Funny enough, when you and Jesse started Titan Talk, I actually did not know too much about Hawk and Dove, and it made me want to read about them. And I learned to love them because they're great in the comics. This is just such a poor imitation of some really great characters. So I'm right there with you, Charles. And in fact, here is where we get possibly, I guess, Dawn's moment of stupidity, because Jason promises he will disable the bomb in Hank's chest if he's given 50 mil in gold bars.
Yeah.
Of course, Dick is the sensible one, because, let's find another way to save Hank, while Dawn is much more gung-ho about giving Jason what he wants, and ends up ambushing guards who are moving gold at the Gotham Bank, coincidentally, at that moment.
Well, Nightwing's the only one that's thinking. He's like, wait a minute, Jason already has money. So he doesn't need...
He wants 50 million gold bars.
So what does he need 50 million? I mean, you could always have more money, but, it's not like he really needs the money. They're doing this for something else. And as it turns out, it's just... He's manipulating Dawn into robbing, as if the Titans weren't in enough legal trouble in season 2 that somehow got magically wished away.
And the fiasco at the bank in this season.
Yeah. So, hey, hey, Dove, in order to save Hank, you have to, commit a felony and steal a bank truck full of gold bars and bring it here and, I'll give you the detonator. Sure. I'm like, what?
To quote the bridge on the River Kauai, madness, just madness.
Now I know I get that Dawn was emotionally compromised, but seriously, when you've got Nightwing there telling her, "Hey, why are you doing this?
Let's find another way."
Yeah. Let's know, why are you giving Jason what he wants?
And he makes that whole kind of famous speech, or should we say talk of, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Because he's literally, I'm not going to negotiate with this wacko.
Yeah.
And he literally, which is the normal reaction. I mean, I get that Dawn, like you said, is under stress.
Yeah.
But it's once again very out of character for Dawn to do this. When she's been telling everybody, dial it down, calm down, she's not able to keep her own feelings in check.
Yeah, she's Dove. She's supposed to be the peacemaker. And here she is just not thinking and thinking like, oh, hey, if I don't do what Jason wants, he's going to, kill my estranged boyfriend who, I almost had last minute sex with. So it's like, at least for once, Nightwing isn't the one doing stupid things this season. It's other characters doing stupid things this season.
They passed the stupidity ball to somebody else.
Why are they doing
So
this?
I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, and then she calls Jason, who directs her to come alone to yet another mysterious location, where of course Dick is also being directed by Jason as well, who's actually taunting him. But Dick is actually trying to do the right thing. He's actually trying to go after Jason rather than let's rob some gold bars. They obviously end up in the same place. But Dick, I think, he's learned from Batman. He's being the detective. He's like, I'm not going to give in to this guy. But yeah, they arrive at the meeting place together. Or first we say Dove arrives at the place and she's confronted by Jason. And Jason has in his hand something he claims to be the deactivator for the bomb.
The detonator.
And he says and he says it's hooked up to a dead man's switch, I believe, and that if Dove shoots him with the gun that's there, Hank will survive. And as she prepares to shoot, Dick arrives and the two tussle over the gun. And even though Dove gets control of the weapon again, she then gets control of the weapon. She shoots Jason.
Yeah. And
it turns out that the gun was the detonator. And so, bye-bye, Hank. It was nice knowing you. So, what did you make? This was very Saw to me, Charles, kind of thing. But, if you will. But what did you make of the whole concept that the gun was actually the detonator and the whole tussle between?
See, that I liked. I liked the gun was the detonator. I liked the fact that Jason the bad guy is being smarter than the heroes. Which is apparently, given what Hawk and Dove were portrayed as in this episode, not very hard. So Jason pulls a fast one. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, the gun was the detonator all along. It was Agatha all along. So essentially what Jason did was he tricked Dawn into killing her own boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Detonating prematurely and killing him by, trying what she thought would to kill Jason. So
just when Connor's finally been able to figure things out.
Yes. And so essentially he kind of got Dawn twice because Dawn, she had to she didn't want to kill Jason, but in order to save Hank's life, she had to go against her own hero code to shoot him.
Yep.
And in the process of trying to kill Jason, she kills her own boyfriend, or, she kills Hank. So, obviously Dawn didn't understand that. And then, and that part, like I said, this part I thought was clever because it was a great misdirection and it showed the villain winning in this episode. And I like that. I like the fact that the villains get to win once in a while. And so I thought it was very clever that to pull a fast one, and it is very shocking. And, it's obviously going to destroy Dawn. But I also have to think in the back of my mind, being a comics geek, well, they did introduce a female Hawk replacement by the name of Holly Granger, who just happens to be Dawn Granger's sister in the comics. In Teen Titans Volume 3, number 23. Written by Jeff Johns. Coincidence? I think not. No. So maybe we're going to get a new Hawk by the end of the season as well. What do you think?
That could be. And also, I suppose it was also Jason almost wanting to test the Titans and saying, how much of heroes are you? Are you prepared to kill? And it's almost like he maybe wanted to see if they would be prepared to spare a villain's life by not shooting him. And it proved his point and what he possibly believes, that there's no such thing as heroes, and that even the heroes are prepared to kill.
Yeah,
and I think
or also commit crimes, because remember, Dawn stole that that truck full of gold bars. So it's like, hey, you'll steal for me, like you're hypocrites, like you'll kill, you'll steal just like me.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's really just proving his point that you guys are playing the high and mighty ones, but when push comes to shove, you also will go against your hero code. And so I think it's his way of also rubbing it in their face even more so.
Yeah.
And heck, they're not even able to catch the little guy because, they turn around and he's disappeared.
Yeah.
By the time.
Yeah. It's like, well, I mean, Dawn is understandably freaked out. Like, oh my God, I just killed Hank. But Dick should have had the reaction time of like, okay, I can go after Jason.
He just disappeared.
He took his eye off the ball and Jason used that to get away. I get that, but still, you think that at least there would have been a pursuit at that point, but not so much.
I would have thought so too, and of course, I feel. I mean, I know it's going to destroy Dove and it's going to destroy Connor, who'd figured it out, and like you said, he ends up with it not all that work for nothing. And so it's crazy. I agree with you.
So, but what did you think about the gun and the the twist there?
I love that because it was almost like I said, almost like a reverse Saw kind of situation where he's like, I want to show you your better self, or if you are as bad as you think you are, and will you give in to your primal instincts and kill?
Yeah.
And so from the utter stupidity of what we'd seen prior, I think this was the redemption of at least from the writers, not the characters, but the writers. The writers redeemed themselves, or should we say, Jamie Grunberg redeemed herself here, because prior to that, I was right there with you. It's like, okay, we get the gratuitous shot of Hank's buttocks, which I'm sure everybody was happy about. Okay, I can live without them personally.
Let's strip down Alan Richardson one last time before we kill him off.
That's right. I mean, I get that, but still,
gotta have eye candy for the ladies and gay guys, right? So
okay, fine, but. Yeah, the writing had gotten so poor at that point, but I'm so glad we ended on that high note, because if not, I've just been like, so do you hate these characters? It's almost like I made me think of Reverend Lovejoy looking up and going, why do you hate my trains?
That's a nice one. Zan Sprouse, a friend of ours, mutual friend, would definitely appreciate that Simpsons reference. So.
Well, I had to go there, but yes, that's just the way I felt. I enjoyed the ending, but other than that, So, anything else on these 3 episodes? I know we've talked and dissected them quite deeply.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about these episodes. Yeah, so for 3 episodes, we had a lot to talk about. We still didn't cover everything, but I think we hit the highlights.
No,
how about you? Any final thoughts?
I mean, I'm glad we ended on a high note after that grim stupidity that we mentioned. So I'm looking forward to episode 4. I just hope that we won't fall into other moments of, let's show how dumb superheroes can be, or how dumb certain characters we don't like can be. So
what's going to be better storytelling, if a villain defeats a dumb superhero or if a villain defeats a smart superhero?
Agreed. Though I am enjoying, as I said, that Jason is maybe trying to prove his point of the hypocrisy of being a superhero and these standards being so lofty you can't reach for them yourself. It could be that as well, but I'm really enjoying them. So, I know it might be tough to maybe do this, but if you were to give maybe an overall rating of these 3, should we say an average, what would you give, should we say, these first 3 episodes overall, if you will, this start of season 3 of Titans?
Well, I actually came up with 3 ratings, one for each episode.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
So can I do that instead?
Of course.
All right. So for Barbara Gordon, the first episode, I give that 8 out of 10 bloody crowbars. For Red Hood, the second episode, I give that one 8.5 out of 10 cracked Red Hood helmets.
Nice.
Like that a little better. Hank and Dove, the third episode, if it wasn't for the stupidity, I would have rated this a lot higher.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give that one an 8 out of 10 detonators disguised as guns.
Very nice. Very nice.
Like you said, I probably would have rated it about a 7 if it wasn't for that great twist with the gun, that being the detonator.
That was its saving grace.
That was the saving grace. So that brought it back up to an 8. But I probably would have dropped. I was going to drop 2 points for just the sheer stupidity of Hank and Dawn in that episode.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. Yeah, no, I mean,
How
overall,
about you, Nick?
Yeah, because I kind of do pretty much did an average, and mine averaged out at roughly 8 out of 10.
Okay,
if
so
you will.
that's the same area where I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I enjoyed them. I'm hopeful. Yeah, hopefully, as I said, that the writers might pull their socks up a little bit in certain areas, but other than that, I'm happy. So yeah, the 8 out of 10 overall for me. So great stuff. So when it comes to Titans news, Charles, is there anything our listeners should be aware of?
Well, really quickly, because we are running really long, I know, because we talked 3 episodes in 1 episode. Go figure. But I did want to mention that, obviously, I mentioned this earlier, that Doom Patrol is coming back for Season 3, and we got the premiere date. So I'm very excited. So Doom Patrol returns to HBO Max with 3 episodes, just like Titans did, on September 23rd, 2021. So in just a month from now, as we're recording this, because we're recording this on August 17th, that we're going to get new Doom Patrol, guys. I'm very excited about that, because the trailer, we got like a 1-minute teaser trailer, and I was so excited with that. Very happy about that. So Season 3 is going to be just 10 episodes. So we're getting one more than we got in Season 2 because of COVID and all that.
Right.
And they're going to be finishing up Season 3 on November 11th, 2021, which might actually be good for you and I, because that might end just in the nick of time for Hawkeye to start on Disney+, so we can talk about that on Phantom Zone.
Yes, indeed.
So kudos for the scheduling on that. We did get, like I said, a 1-minute teaser trailer that featured some classic Doom Patrol enemies, including Garguax. Got to look him up. And the Brain and Monsieur Mala from the Brotherhood of Evil. So I'm really excited about this. I've been wanting the Brain and Mala forever. Yes.
I was smiling big and thought of you, Charles, when I was like, somewhere in Ohio, Charles is smiling.
I was very excited about this. Probably the best couple you will ever see on Doom Patrol since Ezekiel the Cockroach and what's his name? The rat. I forget.
Our rat friend, yes.
Yeah, I forget the rat's name, but yeah. Oh, and
wasn't that Colonel Whiskers?
Colonel Whiskers, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, so Ezekiel and the Cockroach and Colonel Whiskers, best coupling you'll ever see. So stay tuned, guys. And we also got the return of Willoughby Kipling in this trailer. So hooray that Mark Shepard's back for more Willoughby Kipling. You know, the Doom Patrol version of Constantine. Can't wait.
Amen.
So stay tuned, and we'll have to figure out how we're going to talk Titans and Doom Patrol at once, or do we do more than one episode? We'll figure it out.
Exactly. You never know. We might end up doing a old school Fandom Zone style version of Titan Talk, I suppose, where you discuss one episode each. I guess we'll figure it out, as Charles rightly.
We'll figure it out. But in the meantime...
we didn't unfortunately get any Titan Talk mail this time around, Charles. Yeah. But
we've only been off for an entire year, so I can't really fault anybody. But we'd love to hear from you, everybody. So write in. So you want to tell them where they can find us, Nick, or should I?
Totally, of course. If you want to shoot us an email, folks, you can do so at titantalkcast@gmail.com. Once again, that magical address is titantalkcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys. And of course, feel free to follow us on social media, where you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. And of course, we certainly appreciate you for your follows and support. Even more so, I have to say, on Facebook, where you guys have shown so much love to us. And it is so gratefully appreciated.
It's crazy. You guys, when we last recorded an episode 1 year ago, I think we were like maybe 700 likes, 600 likes on Facebook. And we're now closing in on 1,400 likes on Facebook. So you guys are amazing out there. And to reward everybody, I want to mention that we have just come up with the official Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast T-shirt, which if you follow us on Facebook, and we'll also post this on Twitter, our Twitter account as well, which Nick will tell you about here in a minute. But we just came that out, or we came up with that, and it's now going to be available. It's on TeePublic. And if you want to order yourself an official Titan Talk to Titans podcast T-shirt that you can wear while you listen to us here talking Titans and Doom Patrol, and I think you're gonna like it. And I know I've got one ordered. I'm sure Nick's gonna get one ordered if he can get delivery all the way to Milan, Italy. But fingers crossed. And I hope you guys like it and want to wear it. So. Stay tuned for me posting those links, because I'm going to do that right after we finish up this podcast.
Fabulous. Well, I think that's definitely a great way to, of course, thank our listeners. And hey, great little geeky new T-shirt to add to your collection, folks. I think it's definitely something that, if you're fans of the show and fans of the podcast, I think it's a great way to show
support the show.
Exactly. We greatly appreciate your support in any form or shape, from the wonderful likes we've gotten on social media to you guys writing in. You just are fabulous, fabulous folks. And outside of that, Charles, when it comes to you, when you are not here with me in Titan Tower, the newly opened and newly minted Titan Tower, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Yes, Titan Tower's all squeaky clean now. See, it's perfect. So as for, you can reach me at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, or at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, or Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog at Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. You haven't heard that for a while, right? So where you can, I talk all kinds of Titans news, Doom Patrol news, comics, sci-fi news from other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including, deep breath. So the Phantom Zone podcast that Nick and I have been doing over the summer, where we've been talking all kinds of comic book TV shows, and we took a hiatus to talk Titans, of course, but we'll be getting back to that after Titans and Doom Patrol wrap up. But we've had fun talking Loki and WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Jupiter's Legacy, and so I hope everybody checks that out, because Nick and I had a ball on that this summer. I know I did. And then Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where we talk all kinds of Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish audios, and more. So please check that out. And then Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast, they do with Zan Sprouse, where we talk all things Twin Peaks and David Lynch. Nick was kind enough to join Zan and I for our big 100th episode of Ghostwood, where we watched the European international version of the original Twin Peaks pilot with the alternate ending, and had a lot of fun with that. And I hope you did as well, Nick.
It was a joy and a pleasure.
You're always welcome back anytime you want to talk some Twin Peaks with David Lynch.
Love to. All
right. And then, so everybody please check that out. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, Drunk Cinema, where Zan Sprouse and I, this is our side gig from Ghostwood, where we watch all kinds of our favorite movies, and we have adult beverages, adult conversation, and just have a lot of fun. And encourage you to have some adult beverages, or you don't have to. You can just listen and watch movies right along with us. That's always encouraged. So we just finished watching Superman the movie, my all-time favorite comic book movie, Zan's as well, for our big 15th episode. So if you're a comic book fan, you should check that out, and I hope you enjoy it. How about you, Nick? Where can they reach you?
Fabulous. Well, when it comes to me, folks, if you're fans of country music, here, of course, we did talk a little bit about country on this episode. You can check out the Whiskey and Cigarettes show, where I play all sorts of country music, traditional, today's, and everything else in between. For more info about that, whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Podcast-wise, if superhero movies are your speed, you can check me out on Happiness in Darkness, the superhero movie podcast, where we discuss all superhero movies under the sun. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. And last but certainly not least, of course, Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, where myself, Zan Sprouse, and Rachel Friend are going through all the Best Picture winners from 1927's wins to present day. We recently finished discussing The Bridge on the River Kwai, and this week, this Thursday, we'll be discussing Gigi, It was a great musical, of course, with Maurice Chevalier and Leslie Curran. And you can find that also on Facebook and Twitter. If you want to check me out on Instagram, I have a new, shall we say, revamped Instagram, which answers the name of DJ Nictogram. So you can check me out and sharing my thoughts on movies, TV shows, and what have you on Instagram. And when it comes to this show, next time on episode 61 of Titan Talk, we'll be discussing the 4th episode of season 3 of Titans, which is entitled Blackfire.
Gee, I wonder who that's going to be about.
I think it's going to be about Trigon returning. Charles, do you have any predictions when it comes to this? And it was always such a joy to be back in Titan Tower with you. And hey, just podcasting with you regardless. Definitely had a blast with you today.
Well, I need to get going because my wife Lori is texting me going like, hey, Superman and Lois is coming on. It's the finale. So we need to watch that. But I do want to thank everybody for coming back because we know we've been off for a year. And we know it's been a long time, but hopefully now that Titans is back and we'll soon have Doom Patrol back, we're going to have obviously lots to talk about. So we want you to write in. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Thanks for all the likes on Facebook. Reach us on Twitter at Titan Talkcast on Twitter, and find us on Facebook. And keep listening, keep supporting the show. Tell all your friends, and tell your enemies too, because they're going to want to keep an eye on you. As we all enjoy Titan Season 3 together, find out what happens next as everybody tries to recover from Hank's horrible, horrible death at the hands of Jason Todd, the Red Hood. And I can't wait. And Nick, thank you so much for being my wonderful co-host. And thank you once again for driving this episode.
Oh, the joy was certainly mine. I couldn't possibly add more to that because, Charles, you definitely said it all. All I can always left to say is, folks, we will see you next time with Blackfire. Until then, stay super. Ciao, my people.
Titans together.